Yes, welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network for our Monday Night Roundtable for the first time in 2023. My name is John from the SNN. So excited to be with all of you today to break down our first episode of Saturday Night Live from 2023. It was really fun. Host Aubrey Plaza, musical guest Sam Smith, and boy, was it pop culture heavy. Lots of cameos. There were so many storylines coming out of this particular episode. And if you're joining us for the first time in the new year, let me introduce to you what our Monday Night Roundtables are. This is the show where we talk about the legacy of this particular episode. We don't necessarily cover all of the sketches. That's the Hot Take Show. But on Mondays, we dive deep into the sketches that we think people are going to remember and talk about for a long time. And I feel like this episode had a bunch of things that will be very memorable. So very excited to do that with our live chat that is here tonight, as well as our panelists on the show. So let me introduce them right now. First up, it is my man, TJ Randolph. TJ, how are you?
I'm good if I didn't just accidentally click my stop cam button, but I'm feeling black to be here, John. I'm sorry. I'm feeling really good. I got to see this episode live. I was in the studio for this. I saw Aubrey Plaza. I could see the beads of sweat on Devin Walker's face. Like I was there in the audience under the air conditioned in the studio in 8H, and I honestly, a lot of emotions. This might be the least prepared I've ever been for an episode. I wish that was a true
or the
statement.
most prepared.
I don't know. Like I was crazy. It went by so fast. I didn't take a ton. I had my partner take down notes for me, but because I couldn't take everything in. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about this episode, and definitely a thing off my bucket list for myself. Probably one of the best awesome moments of my life. Yeah,
for sure. Congratulations.
Was this your first time?
Yes, Rebecca, it was my first. Yes, the poor kid from Baltimore has been glowing up this past year, and this was a great way to kick off the year. Yes, Rebecca, it was my first
I've
time.
never been. That was not judgy. I was genuinely curious.
Well, if you're listening on the audio feed, that mystery voice.
John, it was an emotional experience. I saw a lot of things.
Already chaos.
I nearly had 2 anxiety attacks. It was insane. All right, but it was wonderful and it was great. And I saw a lot of random celebrities in the hallway. So that was really fun too. So yeah.
All right. Well, you heard her voice before I introduced her on the show tonight. It is Rebecca North. Rebecca, how are you?
I'm good. I'm highly favored and lucky to be here.
Fuck you. Oh, sorry.
You were not kidding when you said least prepared.
Can't take my catchphrase.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to the show, Rebecca.
Thank you.
I knew I thought Nicole and TJ were the problem, not Rebecca and TJ, but the two of
you. Rebecca and I have become closer lately, Okay.
I think without a receptacle, I am now the receiving end of TJ.
All right. Well,
I don't like the way that sounds.
Without further ado, let me bring on someone else into this chaos, and it is a guy who used to talk about Saturday Night Live. He was a great podcaster of this TV show, and I'm so thrilled to have him back here, an entertainment journalist, an amazing podcaster. It is the legendary Mike Bloom. Mike, how are you?
I am fantastic. So happy to be here. I'm sad that I have to be the celebrity cameo. I know I'm verified on Twitter, but I think we're really scrounging to the bottom of the barrel. But I'm excited, and I, too, am highly prepared to be here and ready to talk about some SNL.
Yes, yes, for sure. So thrilled to have you back, Mike. So, Mike, I know you've been out of SNL watching a little bit over the last couple of years, but I love to get your every now and then. It's fun to bring in a little bit of a casual perspective.
Yeah, it's like waking up Rip Van Winkle every couple of years, being like, "Here's what the world's like. Okay, go back to sleep for a little bit. We'll inform you as to everything that's happened when you wake up once again."
Well, before we dive into the episode, did you enjoy it? What was your experience overall?
Yeah, so I'll go into a little bit of my background because I think it's been a hot second since we've done this experiment before, John. I want to say the last time was the Kristen Wiig Christmas episode, which was, I think, not in 2022, but 2021. Obviously, 2022 would have just happened. So,
I think that was in 2020, honestly.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, because I'm
twice.
trying to think. Yeah, because the Christmas 2021 episode wasn't that the whole Paul Rudd fiasco.
Yep.
So
yeah.
So it's been a while. It's felt much like a lot of the 2020s, extraordinarily long. So my entire history with SNL, I won't go into huge details, but basically, I was a big fan of the show. Started watching it in the 90s, but really found my access point around the 04 to 06 group, and then started watching it kind of religiously since then. And then I just sort of got to a point between 2018 and 2020 where to be candid, I was sort of like, do I like this anymore? It felt like we were kind of getting into a rut. There wasn't a lot of things I was particularly enjoying about the show, with the exception of maybe Weekend Update sort of being that sole oasis within a desert of comedy that existed sometimes. And so I took a long, hard look at the mirror, which is tough because I am ugly. And I said to myself, like,
shut up. You have a wife. Like, I don't want to hear that.
please listen, love is,
Blind? Like, no, I don't want to hear it.
oh, yeah, I met my wife on a pod on a reality show. We just got
Aw.
married, like 6 days. But for me, it was like this idea of there's so much content out there. Do I want to actively engage in anything that like I don't have any iota of interest in or enjoyment of? And I thought, no, people out there, if you want to do that with your time, sure, hate watch away. But for me, again, there's so much great stuff out there, and that I have the luxury of participating in, that I thought, yeah, I'm good with kind of cutting this out of my life. So yeah, with the exception of a couple of times when I'm like, okay, I gotta tune in for this episode, there's a momentous return, what have you, I've been largely, again, asleep in my little Snow White-esque glass casket when it comes to SNL, with the exception of when Jon asked me to come on here. Maybe I'll check out some stuff like I'd heard about Please Don't Destroy, which actually weren't on this episode, which intrigued me. But I watched a couple of their sketches because I heard they were sort of like the new Lonely Island in terms of, okay, they're kind of a unifying tone as a comedy group. And I watched obviously a couple of other viral sketches, but outside of that, I've remained largely in the dark. That being said, as it came back, it's so interesting because it's like coming back to your high school and like everyone is graduated and you're like, I don't know who these people are. Can I relate to them? Do they know who I am? Because I'm trying to think, aside from Keenan, is Mikey Day the most like senior member of the cast left?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh my
Colin
God.
and
Yeah.
Colin and Jay probably.
Yeah,
if you
Colin
count
and Jay,
them.
But I mean, it's tough to
yeah,
sort
as
of
far
like
as
count
sketch
them
players.
as quote unquote, cast members, considering how much they do is so separate from everything. But yeah, it's so odd to think about. But not to say that it's not unearned. And one of the reasons why I did end up kind of hopping out several years back is because I did feel like the same people are staying on, doing the same things. Even Mikey Day has probably been on now for what, like 7-8 years at this
7 years,
point,
yeah.
which is fairly unfounded. Back in my day, the not ready for primetime players did 5 years and stopped, and they gave up. So it was sort of like a little bit of stagnancy for me. So coming back into what is a new era, and what I've seen has been Lorne Michaels saying is a transitory period, I really enjoyed it overall. There were certainly things I could look at as like, okay, these are the new people that are kind of supporting things. These are the new featured players that are certainly, keeping things down or making things new. I have checked out, one of the rare things I have watched are Sarah Sherman.
I was going to say, of all people, I wish there was a good Sarah Sherman sketch that was like very her in this episode, but I'm glad you know who she is, because I'm like, if anyone's coming in to change up the tone of the show, it's definitely her. So
yeah,
I'm glad you
and I adore her.
glimpse
That's like, she honestly reminds me of kind of like, this is bad to pigeonhole, but like what people expected Melissa Villaseñor to be initially, of like, here's this quirky girl, and maybe Chloe has a bit of the impressionist side of that, but like she's able to bring this different energy to it. And like you said, the writing that I'm very appreciative of. So I do feel like this newer era, I mean, it's new in and of the newness, in that this is the first episode without Cecily, which was such a mainstay of the show in general. But I really enjoyed it overall. Aubrey Plaza is a fantastic actress. It was so interesting to watch her do something completely different than from what she's used to. I mean, I don't know, it might be projecting what TJ was probably thinking of the audience at the time, but like, I felt palpable anxiety coming from her during her monologue, which is so anti-Aubrey Plaza. But it's one of those nights where you could tell this person's just having the time of their life doing it and trying their best to like really knock it out of the park every time. And for what it's worth, between the writing and the performances, I thought it was at least pretty much base hits the entire way through. I don't think there were many sketches, if any, that I felt completely bombed. If any did, what was interesting as well is that some of them were sometimes blissfully short, which I feel like is not something I think of in this SNL era. We don't really do blackout sketches on SNL, not since the days of the Wolverines back in 1975. So all that is to say, after this long monologue that was probably as long as Aubrey Plaza's tour through 8H, I enjoyed, once I sort of got my sea legs, getting used to what this looked like. Had a good mix of familiar and unfamiliar to me. And I also think I got fairly lucky in that it seems like, from what I've been looking at, and you all can speak to this or not, it seemed like a fairly strong episode overall.
In terms of like,
go ahead, TJ.
Well, you just in terms of like Aubrey during the monologue, my placement, by the way, like I wasn't in the I was like in the rafters. I was in the front row of the rafters. Like I could look over, like I could put my feet on the railing and put my jacket on, and then the page told me to take the jacket off the railing. That's how. But I wasn't like on the floor. And
you didn't know who you were, though, Paige?
Huh?
The page didn't know who you were.
Why would they know who I was?
I figured you just, being on the podcast, they'd allow you to keep your jacket over the railing.
I did wonder if like I was like I figured the people who are here in this like. So like before, like you got John, you've been to the show. Like, was the Peacock Lounge around then too?
Yeah, that's
right. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Were they playing like the insanely loud like music at that time? So for reference, like you go in and you like you're checked probably about 3 or 4 times that it's like give me like your ticket, your ID, and your Vax card, and 4 different people kind of like verify that. And then you go into this lounge and they have you like drinks, and it's nice until you realize that like they're trying to DJ it like it's a club, and the people in there are a mixed audience from 16 to ages like 65. If it was a group of 20 somethings like myself, I might not have a problem with it because I like to cut a rug. I like to dance. My partner was there with me. She and I both like to dance, and she could not stop moving her shoulders and moving to the music. Yet it was not the place. She was in heels and we were on carpet. It wasn't going to happen like that. Yet this music for 2 hours is just booming. Great set list, but just it is booming. And you would think, okay, I'm here with a bunch of SNL fans. Why don't I make some conversation? I'm really great at holding court. Let me talk to some people. Your boy could not like we made some friends in lines, but like it was so difficult to keep up a conversation. It just like I don't know, but like, sorry, that was a whole like tangent. What I was trying to say,
SNL, lower the music.
Yeah.
Was it actually 2 hours, or are you being dramatic?
First of all, I'm always dramatic. Come on.
Yeah, I know, but I'm really trying to like put myself there, and I'm like 2 hours. That seems like a lot.
Okay, so you get in. So the ticket says you need to be there at 9:10. 9:10 p.m. They're like, be there by 9:10 p.m. I got there probably around 8:45. And so when I got into 30 Rock, there was like a line around the building, and you kind of make sure that you're in the right line. You give a word of like, hey, I'm here for this, and they tell you a certain thing you're supposed to say. You go do the security, like 4 different security checks. Like you talk to like 1 or 2 different pages, like a security check. You go through like a metal detector. And then
I don't think you have to give us like every little detail.
All right, Rebecca, what was your question?
Were you actually there for 2 hours with the music playing and like drinking? Because that seems like extended pregame.
We did not walk in until somewhere between 10. I want to say 10:50 to 11:10. Like I remember sitting down at 11:10 p.m. So I remember, I know I have ADHD, I get bored quickly. Like after about the first like 15 minutes, we were just standing around, not really like talking. It was just really boring. Yeah. So about a good hour and a half of like waiting. Damn. Granted, to be fair, like I noticed it was an hour and probably an hour 10-15 minutes of just them checking and verifying people. Yeah. It was like a large group, and like each individual gets a check. So it wasn't like them bringing everyone in at one time and you're stuck. No, it was like that long for them to get the check-in process, make sure everything was good. So like there was a reason why it was that long, and I just happened to be early is all it was.
Okay. So I guess
the reason I brought it up is
back to the monologue. What was the read of the room?
Yeah, okay. The energy of the room is that like Aubrey seemed really on point, honestly, and like go with the flow. Like at one point, she even was like making faces at Lauren as he was like giving notes to the cast. Like she was honestly having a good time. There was a lot of like great energy. All the celebrity cameos in the Amy of it all, like also like added in a lot of like electricity into like the beginning of the show. And I would say that like, save for maybe 1 or 2 Che jokes, which people still laughed at, the energy was like fantastic in the room. This wasn't an episode where it felt like, all right, it was kind of like, it wasn't like a Brendan Gleeson monologue. But to be fair, the energy is better in the room than it was while I'm watching it on TV, because on TV you determine what the energy is. But there, people are laughing. They're having a really great time because they're having SNL. So the one thing I noticed is that the audio in the studio is harder to hear. Like they have TVs and like stuff up, but you don't have subtitles, and so it's harder to hear the cast. And so the energy that I was watching when I was watching it recorded versus watching it live it wasn't. I don't know. Like, of course, you don't want the audience to be as loud, but like, it definitely wasn't matching it in an audio form.
Got it.
Yeah, I have heard the same feedback from a lot of people who've been to the show, and I've been there as well. Like, even bad SNL is good SNL when you're in the studio.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's really fun. So, TJ, I'm glad you enjoyed that. And to your point, Mike, I think that this is ultimately the perfect episode to jump back into, because though a lot of people felt that the start of 48 was sort of new era vibes, I really feel like with the departure of Cecily, this episode will be remembered as the first episode of turning the page onto the new era and what we have, and you see that really focused throughout some of the sketches and some of the chances that they took in this episode. Devin Walker, one of our rookies, was given a lead role. Molly Carney was given a lead role. So there were some moments in this episode. Obviously, Sarah Sherman's had a huge fall, so it really is starting to feel like all these new players are stepping up, and that is very exciting. Of course, we'll get into all of that throughout some of the sketches that we want to talk about tonight. But, we did talk about Aubrey Plaza and some of the vibes that we saw throughout the monologue. But let's go all the way back to when we found out that Aubrey Plaza was going to be booked for Saturday Night Live as a host. And if you don't know this, or you haven't seen on social media or heard Aubrey say it in the monologue, she used to be an NBC page for a while.
If you weren't paying attention to 1/8 of the show,
that was a big deal. She used to be a page. She used to walk around, and the big story was that she used to tell fake stories about NBC and NBC lore as she would give tours. She used to work in the set design department, which you saw throughout the monologue as well. And she was also an extra in some sketches. So if you go back to that era that Mike talked about, that he used to watch the show a lot, back in 2006, she was in the background of some sketches. We even posted one on our Instagram page earlier this week, so you can check that out. And now she's finally coming back to the show through many adventures and movies and TV shows, where she was obviously a very big part of Parks and Rec for many years, and then The White Lotus most recently, season 2 of The White Lotus, which was the biggest show on television, or one of, at least, over the last few months. So I'm going to go to all of our panelists on this and talk about the decision of SNL to book Aubrey Plaza and what they thought of it. TJ, I'll start with you on this one.
Well, so for myself, like, I had the context of, like, I got the tickets I don't know, maybe like I said, I want to say within a week, a few days before they announced who was hosting. I found out oh yeah, so like I had no idea who I was going to see. Like, it could have told me, like, it could have been a pencil sharpener that was hosting, and I was like, I'm still in, like, let's go. So I was like, I got the tickets, and so I was just like waiting. And so when they announced Aubrey, I was like incredibly excited. Parks and Recreation is my second favorite TV show of all time. Scott Pilgrim is my favorite movie of all time. I love Aubrey Plaza dearly. And so the things that they did, especially at Update, my partner can attest, as well as like the two people that were on opposite sides of this, is I lost my shit like when I realized that like Amy Poehler was actually in the building, like when she was there, and then when it was the Parks and Rec, like I literally, like I was bouncing in my seat, and I'm a large man. I'm packing 260. The seats was moving, like, and so all I can say is like, getting to see this kind of full circle. Like, I only wish that I could, at one day, get to like get money from the companies that I used to work at when I was younger and I used to be bad at. Like, she was bad at her job, and she's now, like, honestly, what a journey, and we love to see it. So I was just really excited. Which is like the basic answer. I used to have the biggest crush. Oh my God, I used to have the biggest Aubrey Plaza crush when I was a kid. Oh my goodness. But no, it's just, she's wonderful and she's hilarious. And I think it's kind of interesting seeing how she's become more dynamic. And what was funny is right before I got the tickets, I'd finally checked out her movie, Emily the Criminal, which I don't know if she mentioned in her monologue. And it was like, if you haven't seen it, just a great movie, like just a fantastic, I don't know if it's an indie movie, but like really, it's on Netflix, really, really good. So I was all in on Aubrey.
Rebecca, what about you? Were you all in on Aubrey Plaza when you heard that she was going to host the show?
Yeah, 1000%. She's someone that for years I've been like, how is she not hosted? And I'm a huge fan. Like, obviously Parks and Rec is up there in my top favorite shows, like, of all time. And the character, like, top two characters of the show, like, I like her and Donna the most, and they're obviously opposite ends of the spectrum here. But I've been watching her for years. Like, Little Hours is like my go-to. People are over. What are we putting on that like is gonna get laughs? Little Hours. Ingrid Goes West.
Great movie.
Ingrid Goes West is another
phenomenal movie.
And I sit there and I like binge watch Aubrey Plaza interviews, and I know that's like not a unique thing to say, but like she's someone that I'm like, I don't know how she hasn't been on this. And she has played such a character, like a standard. She's been playing April since up until the White Lotus. So I'm actually surprisingly happy that she hasn't hosted until we got to see her in a different light, because then it got me even more excited because I could see the flexibility in her acting and her comedy too. So I was all in on Aubrey Plaza. I thought I just couldn't wait to see like what she was going to say and what they were going to have her do.
Mike, what about you? I know you are a huge TV guy. So were you very into Parks and Rec and The White Lotus? And then how did you feel about Aubrey Plaza being booked for the show?
I mean, my first reaction was that I was angry that NBC did not strike while the iron was hot back when Parks and Rec was on the air and put more of these actors on the show, because we're very lucky in that we've had, obviously, Amy was a cast member, but we've had Chris Pratt, we've had Aziz, we've certainly had cast members, of course, Rob Lowe beforehand be able to come back. But at the same time, like, that's such a stacked cast, one of the best comedically stacked casts of all time, that I'm so happy it happened at some point for Aubrey, but then it was like, now I want one for Nick Offerman, like,
yes,
now I want one for Adam Scott, especially, which may happen given Severance is coming back this year.
Yes.
Like I want those things to happen. And so it made me kind of sad because she was so good here. This might be another pseudo kind of multiverse John Mulaney thing, where here's someone who was kind of tangentially connected to the show. This one's very tangentially connected, but hits so hard with so many people that they bring her back again and again and again, which is interesting because I feel like perhaps unlike Mulaney, who definitely still had that SNL energy, her energy was still distinctive. To Rebecca's point, like, just Google Aubrey Plaza in talk show interviews, because she is one of those rare Andy Kaufman types that, like, purposely, I don't know if she plays a character, but I think certainly reacts in a way that makes her eccentricities really stand out. So that was what made me really excited too. This is not your blank slate dramatic film actor, let's see what they can do. This is not your blank slate, here's athlete / politician, buckle up, this should be a bumpy ride. This is somebody who kind of came in a little enigmatic, as we know her for. She has certainly broadened herself, definitely in things like The White Lotus, or hell, I'll mention some good ones as well. I got into her actually watching her in a Safety Not Guaranteed, which was a Mark Duplass film back in, like, I think it was almost 10 years ago at this point, with Jake Johnson was in it as well, back when New Girl was like hitting its streak. Also really loved her in The To-Do List, which was also very SNL.
I've seen that movie.
Yeah, so I think that's full bloom right there. But that has Bill Hader in it. That has that has I think Andy Samberg's in that. I think Donald Glover's in it as well. So she has she's done a consistent amount in the midst of it. It's just that nothing has popped as much. So when I heard she was hosting, I was really excited just for like the pure spectacle of it all. I thought, like, even if it's not a strong written episode, we get to see Aubrey Plaza do this, and I'm really intrigued to see, like, is she able to morph and mold herself into these wackadoo sketch comedy characters? Of course, the answer is yes. Though, I'll end on the note that I began on. If we're bringing on her fellow cast members to also host, we got to bring Jennifer Coolidge on to host, right? Yes, like, I did think for a second, Aubrey Plaza is probably the number 2 most popular character from her season of The White Lotus. Of course, Jennifer Coolidge being the holdover number 1. So it would have been fun. Hopefully it could still happen. I won't spoil The White Lotus season 2.
You better
not. There
not.
are certainly reasons to not believe that, but I would hope that we get some sort of Jennifer Coolidge hosting at some point, because we are in her career renaissance, and I feel like an SNL hosting stint should be the cherry on top of that cake.
Also, though, back to the point that I actually don't even think she plays a character.
Really?
Like, I think she plays it up, but I listen to her on the podcast. I think about Rachel Bilson's podcast, who I think was also in the To-Do List with her. And that's like how she was on, like, years later. And it was almost 2 hours long. And like, either she's really, really good, or like she was talking about her neighbor who's like a full witch that she invites over and like casts spell. Like, I think to some extent, obviously she plays it up, but like, I think this is really her. And like, it's her at the core. Like, she was explaining like her and her like partner, how they've got engaged like at like the creepiest place and like the weirdest vibes. And I'm like, I think that this is her. So I know we've seen her in so many interview clips that are 15 minutes max, but this was her talking for like almost 2 hours. But it seemed like someone that they knew each other way back when. They weren't even that close. And like, she still kept it the entire time. So either she's really committed to the bit or like this is just her.
I think that's her. And also you just see how, we talk about how well connected she is on screen, but off screen as well. There was just a ton of celebrities that were at the show this week. So, it makes sense. Everybody's coming out for the new year to support Aubrey. And I think it was a brilliant choice by Saturday Night Live to pick her as the first host of the new year coming back after that 5-week break, because things you would expect to be a little bit rusty, but it really felt like with all the cameos, all the hype that was happening, all the pop culture that they needed to catch up on, they really did a great job with that. But before we get into the sketches from this night, we talked about Parks and Rec and other hosts that we would love to see come in from Parks and Rec. So every single week we put up polls on social media to ask you questions, and you can always answer those polls every Monday. Find us at the SNL Network on Twitter and Instagram. And one of the questions we asked this week was, which Parks and Rec cast member would you like to see host SNL next? They could have been somebody that hosted before or not, but I will put up the results on screen right now. And of course, as our panel said, Nick Offerman comes in first place with most people voting 30% for Nick Offerman. Never hosted the show before. Adam Scott, as Mike mentioned, Severance coming out again soon, 20%. Amy Poehler coming back to host the show would be great. She did a great job this week, and we'll get into all of that. Rashida Jones, 7%, and then Chris Pratt coming back for a second time.
Retta was robbed in this poll.
Yeah.
Well, listen, if they didn't cancel Good Girls, she could have had an outside chance.
I was gonna say, I was like, of all people, like she could be on it. Her and Adam Scott, I think, like are most relevant right now to go back on it, and then they canceled it.
Nick Offerman's on the Last of Us TV show, I think, right now.
He is, yeah.
So, John, you brought up the cameos. Would you like to know some of the off-screen cameos
I was gonna
that
say,
happened in the building?
Give it to us.
I have a list. Okay. So, in addition to what we had, the Property Brothers, we had Tony Hawk, we had Sharon Stone, we had Amy Poehler.
Biden.
That's that. Yeah,
we had Biden, and then in a pre-tape we had I think her name is Allison Williams. Whoever Marnie from Girls is.
Whoever the girl who got her ass ate in Girls.
Honestly, one of the best lines of the season. Okay, so in the building, as we were like being led into the studio, this is the only one I'm unsure of. I think, but I'm only like 65% sure, maybe 75, because I know celebrity faces.
Give it to us, TJ.
I think I saw Yorma Taccone walking into the studio, but I'm why would Yorma be in New York right now?
Wasn't her character? Didn't his character have a storyline with Allison Williams' character in Girls as well? Talking about
or was it
Akiva? It was one of the Lonely Island guys. Was like a gallery owner, I think.
Yeah, I think it might have been with Lena's character though. But I can't remember. It's been like a couple years since I watched that show. Okay, so I think I saw Yorma Taccone, and I was like, "Why would Yorma Taccone be here?" And it was right before, and I was like, kind of crazy. I said, I'm probably imagining things. Backstage, after as we were walking out, I looked over and I saw Bowen and Ben Marshall, and I'm like, and I think I'm a pretty chill guy when it comes to celebrities, but I tripped up. I didn't even think. I just showed up PDD like without even thinking, which is gross. I felt gross doing it, but I swear to God, I didn't even think. Like
You're a heckler.
It was no. It was just I don't heckle at comedy shows, but like I was starstruck a little bit, which I don't normally get starstruck. Like I know I'd be starstruck around Taylor Thomas and Donald Glover, but I was like, oh, I'd be pretty chill. But like, I saw Bowen and Ben Marshall talking, and they were talking to this guy with that like this kind of like shaggy black hair and like scruffy beard, and I was like, holy fuck, that's Adam Pally. I don't know why Adam Pally was there, but he was just chilling. And then next to him, I see a guy with these bright, beautiful blue eyes that look like a man who's created one of my favorite things in the past 20 years, a little show known as Scrubs. Bill Lawrence was in the building, the creator of Scrubs, co-creator of Cougar Town, and most popularly right now, Ted Lasso. So for some reason, he was just chilling in the building. Then all of a sudden, I hear a loud Southern woman speaking up like over the crowd saying, why are y'all really turning your phone off? And look over, Punky Johnson is literally maybe 5 feet from me, like within COVID, like she could have given me COVID if she had it. And she's yelling for some woman named Kelly, being like, Kelly, Kelly and whoever else, I don't know where you are. Like she's yelling for someone, like, why'd you turn your phone off? And then some white woman went over and like gave Punky a hug. I went downstairs.
Oh, you said cameos, and I thought it was people that maybe don't work on the show.
Sorry. Yeah, no, off screen. And then lastly, I was downstairs in the NBC store, and Esther Pavitsky was
nice.
apparently in. I don't know if she was in the audience or backstage, but she just walked by the way, and I was like, by the time I calculated that it was,
so you didn't see Drake.
I did not see Drake, no, and also Esther Pavitsky's husband. Dave.
Yeah, Drake was in the house this week too, and Jon Lovitz as well was also there.
Yeah. And I think speaking of Bill Lawrence, I believe Zach Braff. I don't know if he went to the live show or the dress rehearsal, but I know he posted something on Instagram being at SNL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm not normally a celebrity worshiper in terms of in person because they're just people.
Yeah,
but this is the one time I was like, oh my god, I'd never. It was just
they need the Knicks cam that shows all the celebrities sitting there. They need that at SNL.
They do. Except it's just one social media manager with their phone roaming the hallways, getting it in people's face.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get into the actual episode from this week. And as we normally do on the roundtables, we start off with our cold open. And the cold open from this week was an NFL on Fox cold open. The last time that we actually had an NFL on Fox sketch on the show was back in 1994, believe it or not. But we do open up on Kirk, Terry, Howie, Michael, and Jimmy, played by Keenan, Molly, Mikey, Devin, and James. But this cold open, despite the fact that, they're talking about the Giants losing to the Eagles.
That game was a stinker. That game was way more lopsided than my grandma's chest.
Yeah, thanks, Molly, for that. But besides all the NFL on Fox stuff, we finally get an excuse to bring out Bowen Yang's impression of George Santos. And this was the big political question coming into this week, was who was going to play George Santos. We got a little bit of a clue on Friday night, potentially, that could we see Jon Lovitz play him when he did it on The Tonight Show. So that was, would former SNL cast member Lovitz show up? Would it go to Marcelo Hernandez, which a lot of people were vouching for online? I saw a big campaign for that, but instead it does go to Bowen Yang, who ends up playing Santos twice in the episode. So let's talk about this cold open a little bit. Did we like it? Did we like the choice to play Santos? Obviously, we're going to see this pop back up in Weekend Update later on. Mike, I actually would love to start with you on this one. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, so it's wild that the last time we had a cold open around the NFL, Jimmy Johnson, who is one of the panelists on this, was just finishing being a coach in the NFL. That's how long ago there was an NFL sketch. I mean, listen, I'm almost always going to give at least a skosh of credit to SNL for not doing an Inside the White House or Inside Congress cold open. Again, one of the reasons why I hopped out of SNL when I did is because, yes, it was around the beginning of 2020, but Trump win was in full effect, baby. And so to that question of was it going to be Jon Lovitz? I am so effing glad it was not Jon Lovitz, just because I am still raw and sore from years upon years upon years of celebrities being brought in to be we're going to put you in a prosthetic. You're going to be this person. And that's how we get stuck with Robert goddamn De Niro as Mueller for 3 years when he can't read a freaking cue card. So I was happy that, we pivoted in that direction. I think in retrospect, it maybe wasn't needed, or I will say I like the second George Soros appearance a lot more than the first one, which I think makes sense. I believe Bowen wrote the Weekend Update appearance, so it had a much stronger writing than this being okay, we get the joke. He lies about a bunch of stuff. He does drag, etc. I'll admit I did not expect the swerve that it took. The first part of it, I would say, it was a little long with them having to have 5 people and go all the way around. It was a little Family Feud for me. We're okay, we have 8 impressionists instead of 3, Celebrity Jeopardy. So that just inflates the time. I feel like we got that here. So the NFL stuff was passable. The Soros stuff gave it a boost. I wouldn't say it was spectacular. But again, considering how bottom of the barrel we have been in the previous administration, I was just happy to see SNL cast members doing subtle political stuff that took place outside of Washington, D.C.
Yeah, Rebecca, I mean, I think I was a little bit harsh on this on Saturday. I think that I really felt like they were trying to hide the Santos impression in the
Oh yeah,
NFL on
sorry, I don't
Fox.
know why I said George Soros.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Trying to hide it in the NFL on Fox premise, which was weird to me because it felt like there was a lack of escalation and there was no like runner of, Santos popping up throughout the night in places you wouldn't expect necessarily. So I was, sort of questioning it. And then on second watch, I actually didn't mind it as much. And I thought it was really interesting that they decided, obviously, the Santos story is absolutely crazy. This is the guy who lies about everything. And they decided to focus on the drag queen aspect of things, which I'll play for you right now.
I'm just saying I didn't do drag in Brazil under the name Kitara da Vache.
So they focused on that. So Rebecca,
and that's the main reason why Bowen did it, right? They're like, we know
So-
he can vogue.
Well,
Yep.
okay, so
Go
to be fair, just for some context for everyone, as we know, I am the biggest drag fan that will be on this network of people, and my Twitter feed for anything George Santos does is calling him gay in sorts. So I think that was the underlying thing of Bowen playing him. Not that it was a spot on great impression. I think it's just funnier to give him a little flamboyance to the character, and I think that's specifically why they chose to have Bowen play, and it was interesting. But I didn't even realize this Katara Rabache thing was that widespread that they would have it on the show, because I thought it was very niche to my Twitter feed. So when I knew they would be talking about Santos on the show, I did not expect this. I kind of wish they had maybe more Bowen input from that side of things in terms of the drag. I kind of wish his weekend update character was Katara Rabache. I wish that was the angle they took, that Katara was on it trying to not pretending that they weren't George Santos. In my mind, I felt like it was a wasted opportunity here. I didn't know before I watched it Sunday, but I didn't even know before that he was on update 2. So I thought this was the only appearance, and I was like, okay, I guess that scratched an itch a little bit. But then when we saw the update, I was like, wait, that was just simply funnier. Then I was like,
Yeah.
I think I'd reversed from you, John. Then I went back and I was like, oh wait, the cold open wasn't that good then.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking with one of our great interns today, Matt, and I was thinking about just so many things that they could have done with this. And again, I don't write for SNL; they're all brilliant too, right there. But I just really felt like one of the things was they should have opened up Weekend Update, and it should have been Bowen as George Santos with Michael Che, and it should have been George Santos being like, "Hi, I'm Colin Jost," and then Colin comes out as like, "George, get out of my seat," and something like that, where they just kept going with that, or perhaps a Kristen Wiig Penelope, where you have the one upper liar character, with George Santos, and then obviously Lovett's in the building. We talked on Saturday about the famous liar character he used to do the that's the ticket. So that would have been a great thing to have them together.
Now I'm imagining him being standing where Amy Poehler was, once again the Spice Girls, and just gesturing to the stage.
Yeah.
Exactly. There was a lot that I feel like they could have done with this character because, I don't know how much the story is going to continue to permeate the culture, but it sort of feels like this was the week to really tackle George Santos, and maybe they should have made a runner out of it as opposed to having it in these two spots. But TJ, would love your perspective on the cold open, the Santos talk, and everything.
To be honest, I don't really have much perspective on the George Santos thing. The thing that got most of my attention is I kept chuckling at when they were bringing everyone out and a couple minutes ahead of airing it. I just kept giggling at Molly's bald head. I was like, man, that's funny. Which is the most base line of comedy of giggling at a bald head. But honestly, their head was so shiny, you should have seen the way it reflected up into the rafters. It was honestly, it was the star of the show for me, other than Michael Strahan's gap. Those are kind of the things that interested me more in this sketch. But
that's a problem though, right? Because I mean that wasn't the point of the sketch.
I don't care about because I'm not that interested in politics or sports. So I'm going to notice, since I'm not interested in politics or sports, my attention is probably going to go elsewhere, which was my first place I went to was the Strahan impression. And then, Rebecca, I am a very newbie drag fan. I've only seen 3 seasons of Drag Race. Because I'm very much a newbie, what was interesting is when Bowen was on the green screen next to the stage is Bowen didn't leave to do the quick change. They like his like shirt was off and stuff. Like Bowen changed like just like barely off screen. And
it was really quick.
He had like 4 people that were like somebody was doing his face. Like honestly, like also just like that crew. Everyone knows that crew is incredible, but like it was like the amount of like hands on him and he like getting himself like to make that quick change happen and then get back on screen super quickly was like this insane turnaround. And so
it was quick drag. It was like he was doing a mini challenge.
Yeah, literally. I also think the funniest thing is that Bowen like can't move. Like he's not a dancer. He's not good at that. I honestly think if Marcelo
like,
was in drag,
Caliente, or
he would be a
Caliente?
Jiggly.
Yeah, Jiggly Caliente.
I think Marcelo would have been like really good at the performance aspect. And I feel like they put Bowen in a lot of these roles. I think he helps write or is inspiration for a lot of these more like gay type of roles, but like he isn't a dancer. And then like, so it's even funnier watching him Vogue or Nogue for the matter of like the sketch. Like, so it's probably as related as George Santos probably was in performance, but like I'm now imagining Marcelo in that role and like he could move. We've seen it in a bunch of sketches before. Like I feel like he could have been really good at it too. So what if he even elevated it that much? Like if he was like a really good performer. So
yeah, I felt like I needed like a little bit of like I feel like some sports sketches I can get in on like the ESPN classics and stuff, but I do feel like this one was one where I needed a little bit more context. I would have, which is fine. Like not everything has to be for everyone, but like this is one of those ones where like since I wasn't as much of a sports fan, I know who Strahan, I know who Terry Bradshaw are, but like if it's not Stephen A. Smith, I don't really know who's like doing what. So I just think it was interesting. My attention definitely went to like other places when I was watching this.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's get into the sketches that we want to talk about from this episode of the show. And TJ, I'm going to send it right back to you. What is the number one sketch you would like to talk about?
Well, Demi Lovato was not in the building, but Lovato was talked about. I want to talk about the HIV infomercial sketch, Jonathan.
Okay. All right. Tell us why.
I want to talk about it because, well, I'm a young man of the 90s and early 2000s, and I've grown up with in what I don't know if it's considered the prime, but like definitely remnants of toxic masculinity, where if you're even suspected to possibly be someone who might be somebody who likes someone of the same sex, or not trying to be binary, or you get what I'm trying to say, it's this like big deal. So there is this thing where I think there's some essence of like straight men getting out of it, but like I definitely grew up around and still know a lot of guys who are very much the like, hey man, I'm not gay though. You know what I'm saying? Like, sure, I love my son, but I'm not gay. Like it's a big deal to not be considered someone who's part of the LGBTQIA plus AB down star select group. And so which honestly, it's not that big of a deal. Like you're just acting. So that energy in and of itself, like growing up in Baltimore, was so prevalent. And another little, this is the one time I'm going to say this. I don't know if I said this right. I ran into Devin Walker at a gig he did a few months ago, and I told him how much I really enjoyed his update piece where he kind of touched on something like this about toxic masculinity and how like maybe we just got to be a little bit more gay, fellas. And I really like that piece, and I felt like this was kind of maybe his way of trying to get another piece on board. I don't know if he. John, do you have if he wrote this?
So
sketch?
it was written by Michael Che and Rosebud Baker. Yep. I have to imagine
that's right.
This feels very much like a Che piece.
Okay, yeah. Which and I love Rosebud. Which great. The two of them, that's a great team. And so I like that it was Devin getting a starring role. But I guess for myself, I really liked that piece because it's so ridiculous how much like men are worried about being perceived as gay. Like in the 2000s, I get it, but like, and nowadays it's not that deep, but like, so to have that guy to like be such a central character, I thought was really funny. Also, little fun fact here. I feel like I have a very distinct, very loud, maybe occasionally annoying, but mostly charming laugh. You can actually hear me laugh like very faintly twice in this sketch. Were
you there? You were at SNL this weekend?
Anyways,
Is that coming from the perspective of the person
I deserve that.
Aubrey Plaza was a page? They didn't listen
we're doing
to
an SNL
podcast.
We're literally doing an SNL podcast. This is the one time I can gush about it. All right. Like it's literally this. And then it's like posting a wedding picture twice. No one wants to see it again. Like this is the one. Let me have this. All right. Seriously, stop posting so many wedding pictures. We don't want to see it. Anyways.
Well, I do want to let you have this, but
I
do want to just play a couple of. No,
Yeah,
but
please.
let me just play a couple of lines from the sketch because I
Sure
want
thing, Kanye.
I want people to get context for what you're talking about. So here, basically we have 3 different lines here. I'm going to play from Devin Walker from the sketch, and I will say I thought to me this was actually my sketch of the night. I really felt like,
Oh, wow.
It didn't have the gratuitous cameos that I did enjoy for the most part, but this was really centered around a new cast member. Not many cast members in it. It had a specific viewpoint that it was writing from. And I always love sketches that are like, what if we heard from the person that we don't normally hear from? And that is where they wrote it from. It's like the guy who is, hired for this particular film piece, but has a problem with it for whatever reason. So let me play Devin Walker's lines here, and then we'll break it down with Mike and Rebecca as well.
That's why I switched to Dovato HIV treatment. I ain't gay though.
See, and like he says, the way he says that was really great because it's very quick and to the point. And then it'll escalate a couple more times. So here's the second one.
Fact, you can get HIV from a girl. That's how I did it.
and then here's the third one.
Fact, there be mad straight girls at the gay clubs and they be ready, and that's where I come in.
So fact, Mike Blue, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I adore this Devin Walker guy. Again, I couldn't pick him out from someone at a subway station, but between this and the Strahan impression, which was one of the better elements of that cold open, I've really been liking what he was doing. I have no idea how much play he has gotten in the episodes prior to this.
Not a lot.
Yeah, is it that people don't like him, or did he is this like a Luke Knoll situation where he's just like not doing anything?
No,
not at all. I would just say that it's been
He's
a
new.
slower start for him.
He's a grower. He's a grower for sure.
Yeah.
Rebecca, come on.
Well, listen, that one
God's
girl
sakes.
that he got HIV from can be part and parcel to that. This didn't hit close to home. It's bad to say, but as someone who again is one of the many Drag Race fans on this panel, there's so many HIV prevention pill commercials that and it's also living in, when you live in New York City, you see it on the subway all the time. It's fantastic, but it is so prevalent. And so I do wonder if this was back in the day and starting 5 years ago when they're we're going to do more brand deals. I wonder if this was one for Dovato, but I thought he was so great here. But to me, Aubrey Plaza, there's this one stupid detail, and even in the worst SNL sketches, sometimes there's that one detail that is so ridiculous, but it just absolutely tickles you. And for me, it was the hot salad.
Yeah,
the idea that I have a salad and it's hot, and it's oh, it burned the roof of my mouth. It's so stupid, and it's one of those things of even if you feel like the sketch isn't working, throw an extraneous, random, funny detail in there to kind of help save the premise. And I thought the nice B bit almost with Mikey apparently having this abhorrent dancing that gets him fired. I thought it was fine. I mean, again, we're in year however many of Mikey Day being the straight man behind things, but at least he's not the one being now wait a minute, you're telling me that you're in this commercial and you're insisting that you're a heterosexual when HIV is usually a homosexually contracted virus. Again, I'm giving us wins here based on what I'm used to seeing. We did not get Mikey Explains in this sketch, so I'm happy overall.
Yeah, I will say we have gotten away from Mikey Explains a lot over the last couple seasons, I would say, and especially due a lot of his contemporaries have gone away from the show. So I agree with you, Mike. I do think that that I would say that the two buttons, the Devin stuff and the hot salad were probably the best parts. The Mikey weird dancing probably could have done without that. I would say that probably was a negative point. But Rebecca, let me get your thoughts on HIV commercial.
Wait, I thought the Mikey dancing was funny. That's what I was thinking in my head this whole time. I was it was just he was trying so hard, and it wasn't that bad at dancing. It was just that Aubrey didn't like him, and her character just didn't like him.
Yeah, it was the dancing version of, oh man, I'm all out of cash.
Yeah, literally, it was just I don't know. It was dumb. It wasn't the focal point of the episode, but I was just there are those people that you just don't like, and her character just didn't like him and wanted him off the set, even though he was doing nothing but just being helpful. I thought it was good. If you see those commercials, Devato's real, and I've seen it on TV, so I actually do wonder that would be pure humes if Taboo sponsored SNL, like for a brand deal, which is so funny. But if you see those commercials ever on TV, it's like all these people, like very that at a club, full dancing. They're like, oh, I don't want HIV. And like, it's not relevant at all. And I know we've discussed a lot on this pod, like the commercialization of sketches, but I think this actually took that and reversed it. Then them being a whole family dinner scene, and at the end it's like, oh, sponsored by Ulta Beauty, like, and it just throws it in for that last punchline. This was actually a behind the scenes, and I like that because you think about that all the time, and they could have gone for the easy jokes of like, oh, the side effects might include, and then list off a million different things, but they didn't. And I thought it was not a new idea, just a new vibe around it, and I actually really appreciated that.
Rebecca and Mike, let me ask you both a question. You kind of touched on seeing commercials like this a lot, right? And I'm assuming you see it when you're watching things like Drag Race.
Oh, and also SNL.
Everything.
When I was watching SNL, there was actually an HIV. I think it was PrEP came on right after this sketch.
Now, when you guys are watching, are you watching it on? Are you streaming it or are you watching it on cable?
I don't have cable, so streaming it. But Devato is on cable too, because when I'm at like my parents' house, it's on.
Mike, what about you?
Yeah, same. It's I mean, like, I'll watch on like Hulu Live TV, so it's sort of like cable-esque, but still with commercials. But yeah, that's largely where I take it in.
And Rebecca, is it on? And I have a point to this, Sean, but like Rebecca, is it on Hulu Live TV? You're watching it on Peacock or?
It's on every. Yeah, I don't think it's on anything specific in my head. Like it'll be on during Jeopardy. On
no. Sorry.
TV.
The
This
commercial.
episode?
No, the commercial.
Devato. Yeah, it's on everything. I've seen it so many times.
Okay, and you don't see it even when you're streaming.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So
Hulu.
like I only watch like most of the world, or actually I don't know if it's also like most of the like our younger demographic, I watch mostly everything through streaming or through YouTube. I don't watch any like Hulu Live TV. Like watching SNL and Peacock is the closest thing I'll come to watching something live. And so I feel like I see commercials that are more, I only get commercials through podcasting and through YouTube. I try to avoid commercials everywhere else. Oh, that's why I'm not seeing it, because like
you don't watch commercials.
You're
no,
I
hate yeah. No. So I was like, why am I not seeing this? Because I still get YouTube ads. I'm like, all right, so like, why am I not?
What is your point?
My point is basically they're talking about like you guys are talking about it like seeing it like this regular thing, and I'm like, I've never seen like an HIV ad probably since I had cable. And so you're speaking about this
TJ,
concept.
You pay for Hulu Premium and you don't have ads.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the point of this.
Mr. Moneybags gets to see SNL, not paying for commercials.
It was
speaking of ads, this podcast is brought to you in part by HIV.
HIV? What?
I stopped myself.
No, what I'm trying to get at is that like you both talking about it with this like familiarity of like, oh, being around New York City and like it's seeing a lot, or like seeing this commercial all the time, and I'm like, me not having known this is a real product. It's just kind of interesting to see like what angle each of us like takes when we're watching a sketch, because like what do we kind of attach to, or what are we familiar with? But
yeah.
I think that's kind of interesting. That's all.
No, I mean, I think that's even more true with sketches. Another one that I'm sure we'll get into, which is like the Miss Universe thing, right? Where they sometimes do this of like, hey, have you seen this viral clip? If you don't, you probably won't understand what this means.
The whole sketch.
If you do, you're going to have a great time.
Well, that's the thing. It was still a funny sketch. It was still a funny sketch, and watching it in real time, it was like it was really good energy. It was really funny. I didn't know until I listened to the Hot Take show a couple days, like yesterday, that it was actually a viral thing. I had no clue. Yeah. I just thought it was like, man, this is really, really weird. But like, I don't know, it charmed me. And also seeing Aubrey, to see Aubrey in real time saunter over to Keenan, like as opposed to just come off camera, it was just like she took her time, like step touching it the entire time, I thought was really cute. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I didn't know that. Like, it's just so interesting what we.
Well,
what
if
we
it helps,
we
TJ, we don't really get many medical commercials up in Canada. I actually think they prohibit a lot of the ones that you get in the States. So, yeah.
Oh wow.
It's a different perspective here, but
yeah.
It's because it's free healthcare. They don't need to advertise
exactly.
medicine here.
God,
there's nothing special about it.
Yeah. Congratulations, John.
Yeah.
Literally.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Rebecca, what
Looks
is
at my
the
Blue
sketch-
Shield, Blue Cross Blue Shield card. Sadly,
Yeah. Classic Medicare. Rebecca, what is the sketch that you would like to talk about?
I would like to talk about Megan. I do just want to make a point that, like, I think this whole episode, I know earlier we were talking about that, like, without Cecily, now it finally feels like it's the new season of SNL. Like, it's the new era. And I think there was so many, like, Gen Z-esque, like, very pop culture references, like the Miss Universe, which has gone viral, like, on, I don't even have TikTok, but I'm assuming it's on TikTok if I see it on Reels. And then I think...
Sorry.
So then that and the Megan discourse and even like the Katara Ravache, I think it's finally feeling like more current with the times without trying too hard. And like, I feel like a lot of the earlier part of the season and middle to end of last season, it was them trying very, very, very hard to relate to Gen Z with a lot of those cringy TikToks or like all of that. And I feel like this episode finally felt like, okay, this is the stuff, or I'm getting older because I'm like, this is the stuff that now I'm seeing. And like, I relate to all this content and going off like online, the Megan commercial felt very timely to me. And so in general, the sketch was about Megan, the movie, which I haven't seen. I don't do scary movies, but I've seen enough online discourse that like, I have a sense of what it's about and that the whole idea is now in real life. Everyone's just like, why is Megan becoming a gay icon? Like, this is probably the gayest SNL episode I've seen in a while, and I like it.
Thank you.
It's funny.
God.
It's funny. It's in
love
touch.
it.
Like, it's finally getting the right tone. And it is like all over Twitter. It's just been like, but why is Megan such a gay icon
Well,
besides her bulletproof cover? Like,
well, that's the thing though. It's so
it's
interesting.
crazy.
Like there's a like the writer tried to go on this interview being like, well, it's because of this concept of found family. And then I've seen people like quote tweet it and be like, no, it's just because she like dances and kills people and has nice hair. That's literally the only reason why us gays like him.
I think it's awesome. I thought this sketch was funny. You didn't need to see Megan, and I think a lot of the time, and I know we'll get into it later, but Black Lotus, you kind of had to see it to think it was funny. And I didn't see this, and I thought it was hysterical. And like, it felt very timely, and I was excited that it felt like SNL was doing its research in a more subtle way.
Yeah, let me play this line from Bowen, which speaks to what Rebecca was talking about.
Megan, you messy hoe, I'm obsessed with you.
So that was really great. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I loved, it sort of took a little bit of a turn for me when we had Chloe Fineman playing Megan. And I was like, oh, that's so perfectly well casted, Chloe Fineman as Megan. But then they take it on a turn a little bit where Aubrey takes over as Megan 2.0. And I love that that beat in the club, where they're talking about what they could say or not. And I do think that this was really, really fun to have. And then obviously the Allison Williams cameo, who plays the role of the mother in the particular movie that they're referencing Megan. So to have her there as well, I felt like that was a lot of fun. I think that what's interesting about all of these cameos, and again, I don't need 9 or 10 cameos in a given episode. I think it's a lot, but I do love that we're back to the point of SNL where it's like, we don't know when someone will show up. Yeah. And I think that was exciting about this sketch. Mike, did you like the Megan sketch?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think this was one, to your point, John, one of these like pop culture things that had to be checked off after being off for 6 weeks. Megan, I know, had kind of broken the internet back when the trailer first debuted. I want to say around like Halloween, specifically of the gif of her dancing. So she's been in the can for a little bit, to the point where this is a very tangential thing, but I do a simulation of a Survivor season at the end of every year with like the stars of the year, and people were already suggesting in 2022, oh, make it Megan, when it's like, no, the movie's actually coming out this year. So I enjoyed, having to check this. What I thought was interesting was the very shady line about being like bros, but for gay guys, considering that A, Bowen was in was in that movie Bros, and B, I believe Bros is like currently streaming on Peacock. So I don't know if this is like negging, like purposely saying, yeah, watch this movie that you're not going to like. I thought that was just an interesting way of I guess to quote another horror pastiche, the call is coming from inside the house in terms of trying to slay one of their fellow products. But overall, I thought that was fun. The joke made sense. It was well done, and it didn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah, there's also a lot of Bowen background specifically. If anyone listens to Las Culturistas, his podcast with Matt Rogers, which I'm a huge fan of, and twofold is one, they like early on in Las Culturistas when Bros was coming out, it was actually very like, are they going to touch on the fact that this is getting so much internet hate? And they had people like from the cast on the podcast, and Bowen talks about like being in the cameo and the hate, and they kind of never really touched upon it any further. And he did address that he was in it and so honored to be in a movie of such significance, but like they never deep dove into anything. And I feel like they're really good at self-roasting, but if it was Fire Island, where I think they had a heavier hand in making it, then that would have been different. But Bros, they really never kind of like shat on it at all. And the other thing is that I know Bowen has not just saw Megan for the first time because he wasn't like able to see it. He was in London, according to him on the podcast. And there were 2 episodes that went by where both the guests were talking about it and like the cultural significance. And he's like, I'm so annoyed I can't join in on this yet till I've seen it. And he finally was able to see it this week. And then there's a sketch this weekend. And I was like, this is very full circle for Las Culturistas fans.
Let me also, before TJ jumps in, just do a quick correction. I believe Allison Williams' character, according to Scott in the chat, is the aunt in this.
Oh yeah, I believe the plot is that, and this isn't really spoiling it, that I believe the little girl's parents die, and so the aunt's like, well, I might as well throw a robot in there. She's effed up enough.
All right. Well, TJ, thoughts on Megan?
So I was really, really charmed by this. I have like a lot of my main circle of friends are part of like the LGBTQIA like group, like my close core. Like they all, when we all became friends, they definitely weren't identifying as they are now, which is kind of interesting to see how they've changed. And I've gone from being a token black to, as they've literally called me, the token straight. Don't know how to feel about that. But like, so a lot of like their jokes in like humor, like I'm just kind of in group chats where they're just kind of like make cracks, and I'm just like, oh, so that's So like little touches, like that's the reason I've gotten into Drag Race and like other things, just because that's the people I'm around. And so seeing this sketch, like seeing it through the lens of like them, I lost it. I thought it was so like funny. Also the line, John, do you have Bowen's line about?
I don't. No. I only pulled that one that I played for you.
Okay, yeah. The what is it? The line of like you got your ass ate on TV. You're an ally or something like that.
Yeah, I believe it's let me see. I think I wrote it down. Like, oh, you got your ass eaten out on girls. You're an ally, sis, or something like that.
Yeah, honestly, I think one of the I think it's
the best part.
One of the best lines of the season. Like
I'll pull it for next week.
Yeah. Like just a fantastic line. And so I really appreciated it. But there was kind of this, I don't know how to fully describe it, but it kind of like goes bigger. And I forgot there was something I forgot to mention about Aubrey Plaza hosting, but like let me get there. So I was sitting next to a gay couple, and front seated in the very front row, like downstairs, like there was a larger population of like I can't make assumptions. My gaydar is not bad, but you're never sure of, but I was also in New York City. You never know. But like basically like the front row seemed very, very like non-binary or like LGBTQI. Like it was a little bit more, like making masculinity or like femininity, whatever they wanted to make it. But definitely more males than, or not males, more male presenting. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm always not.
I know what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. And especially in the front row, like in the 4 seats of the front row, specifically like men, and it was like I think one like woman. And I think this, as I was watching the show before, like Sam Smith was coming out, the couple that was like sitting next to me, one of them leaned over to me and like we kind of were bonded over like, well, I'm the fan, like you're the fan too. He leans over to me, he's like, oh, do you think Kim Petras will be in this? Like as I kind of like talked to him during the commercial breaks, I kind of like learned that he was there mostly for Sam Smith. And then I remembered something in the line. I like, so also seeing the sketch through his lens was kind of interesting. Like it was just really, granted, the sketch itself made me laugh personally, but it was kind of fun, like having that extra dimension. But the reason I'm getting to that is because I was in line, And people that were in front of me told me that when they wrote in for the lottery, that they wrote in about how big of a fan they were of Parks and Recreation. This was another couple. This is a woman sitting next to me. Big fan of Parks and Rec. I wrote in also about being a huge fan of Parks and Recreation, which I just figured was just a coincidence. But I wondered if the people who are checking the emails revolving around like the lottery, when they're going to pick people, like who's going to get the tickets, if you mention something that might make you a better audience member for a particular host or a particular musical guest, someone like someone from the LGBTQIA community or someone who's a big Parks and Recreation fan or a big fan of White Lotus, could that be a reason that, oh, we don't know who we're going to book until the week of or a few weeks ahead of time? Could that be the reason that like we got the tickets? It just like just seeing the audience and like who was there. I didn't get to talk to as many people as I would have liked, but like it made me think about that because like that audience that I was with ate this sketch up. Like there was definitely a very LGBT like shade over the show, which was like people really clung to in the audience. And like honestly, it was a lot more fun energy, but it made me think about that a little bit.
Well, I guess we'll never know. But back to the sketch in specifics. I think one other side note before we move on is the fact that there was a creepy doll being played by someone other than Sarah Sherman. I felt like that must have been a personal offense to her.
I will also say, again, this is a little bit of like the George Santos reappearing in Weekend Update. I don't know if I needed them to play a remix of the White Lotus theme song at the end. I don't know if they just ran out of music rights and they're like, put on some music. Well, we did that Black Lotus sketch. Let's just use the White Lotus music. Because I definitely did my own Shazamming of like, did they just play the White Lotus music? And they did for no particular reason because I had nothing to do with it.
I also feel like based on you guys' note about bros, which I did forget about that one joke, I don't know if we're going to be seeing Billy Eichner host SNL like we were wanting at the beginning of the season. After that joke,
yeah. Okay, Mike, let's head over to you for the sketch that you want to talk about.
Quick, name one person that won't be hosting SNL anytime soon. Name one. All right, it's just making a Billy Eichner reference. I'm gonna jump to the end here.
I had an answer.
Oh, it's gonna
go for it. Who is it?
Alec Baldwin.
Okay, all right. No,
Rebecca, you are on fire today.
I would say I give you a rim shot, but I do not want to, given the recent events.
Sir.
Yeah.
Okay, no rim shot with all the Allison Williams talk. It's all becoming one full circle. So let's
yes, there we go. See, the cast is mixed in.
So
I'm gonna go to the end of the episode here. I do not think this was the strongest sketch, but it's the one I wanted to talk about the most because I have found love. I have found a new cast member that I am so interested in, and his name is James Austin Johnson.
Yeah, you're about a year late.
Again, Rip Van Winkle, baby, wake me up. I'm slow to all these trends here.
It's
I only
not
know
new to
Megan.
this podcast. Sorry,
TJ, I specifically remember you not liking James Austin Johnson at one point.
No,
but,
no, I'm very aware that I stand by it. I stand by 100%.
All right, let's let Mike do his thing.
Sorry,
let's hear it.
I think just for me, and this is a bold claim, but he reminds me so much of like Phil Hartman, Bill Hader, my two favorite cast members of all time. That like glue aspect to me of like can do goofy things, can be the straight man. And I just thought, the idea of doing a film noir, the fast talking 40 stuff is something that is very rarely done on SNL, something that usually does the joke, pauses for laughter. It's not a lot of that rat-a-tat-tat machine gun dialogue that we're used to from that era. So again, I'm really happy creatively they took that swing and decided to go with it. I thought James Austin Johnson, especially out of this cast, was perfect with like that hard-boiled detective, long face, which is a particularly made fun of element. But Aubrey Plaza got to be freaking Janet Snakehole. How can I be mad at that? She finally got to bring that character to life, and she was perfect for it, and I was so happy with it. She was also perfect with the back and forth between the two of them. I believe she co-wrote the sketch. You could really tell that like this was a labor of love on her part, something that she was clearly very game to do. And then they bring it true to what John was just talking about like, you never know what'll happen. The last sketch of the night has freaking Sharon Stone just walking on after sitting there and doing nothing for an entire musical number, purposely so, to serve as the femme fatale on top of the femme fatale. On top of that, I think there were some funny lines, like her insulting his big nose. He's like, of course you walk in the day before my rhinoplasty. It's just those small moments added on top of the actual genre-based elements that we often don't see on SNL. Even when we do the old school movie, they usually sometimes still go super broad with it. The fact that they were unrelenting, and this was one of those ones that was kind of blissfully short. I was so surprised with how quick it was. I was pretty impressed all around, and my eyes were really on this JAJ guy.
Yeah, so Mike, let me give you a little bit of context for the JAJ talk, because he comes in at the beginning of last season and he's dynamite. He's playing the president of the United States in the first episode, his first episode as a cast member. So everybody's going nuts over him. And then he does the Trump Biden thing all season long. And the big question coming into this season was, are we going to put him in a box? Like, is he going to be just the guy who's going to do the impressions? And is he not going to be somebody who is a character actor in sketches or do other types of impressions? He really felt like they were not stretching him as much as they could. So the big question was, is he more Daryl Hammond, who was just simply known for his impressions, or more Dana Carvey, who could do the impressions but also be a really good role player? And I think people were a little bit concerned of what they were getting to see from JAJ so far this season, which was not enough. And then here comes this sketch, which I totally agree with you, Mike. I actually think this is probably his standout moments of the season so far, potentially, where he is just, anchoring this sketch. He's actually the only cast member in this sketch in his second year on the show. So the fact that they trust him basically to have a sketch on his own with the host, and then obviously a very special guest who hosted the show a long time ago, Sharon Stone, last hosted in 1990s. So it's just really crazy.
Probably in the Basic Instinct days, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was season 17, episode 17, April 1992. So right around that time. So yeah, I mean, this was really fun. My favorite line of this one, I said this on Saturday, but I did love this. So Sharon Stone comes in and goes,
I just can't resist a man with a deep voice and a big nose.
Then JAJ goes,
of course, a knockout like you walks in the night before my rhinoplasty.
So funny. That was amazing. But yeah, I mean, this was a lot of fun just to see this. I mean, this is the type of stuff that I ask for on the show a lot, which is just to have the host, playing off one particular cast member. So Rebecca, how did you feel about what you saw from Film Noir this week?
I feel like this was a very hyped sketch going into when I watched it on Sunday, and I just kept seeing clips of it everywhere, and like it didn't live up to it. Not to say it was bad, like it was definitely entertaining. Like, didn't catch my eye that much when I was watching it. Like, if I didn't see all the online like clips and everything, maybe I would have either liked it better, or I would have like literally like glazed over and picked up my phone during it. It didn't have that many laughs. I mean, I think JAJ is very strong. I think this is going to be his role. You said this might be his strongest sketch of this season. And I'm thinking back to the Amy Schumer episode when they did based off the TV show The Watcher, and he's just like the dad character, and I think this is going to be good for him. Very like Beck Benedy, where like we were kind of like looking for that, and he is just like the deep voice, like dad, straight male character here, and I think it was fine. He made one joke about his age being like, I'm actually 28, even though like I look 44.
Because I'm an alcoholic, yeah.
Yeah, and I did Google his age, and like he definitely like looks a lot more mature than like he is in like his 30s. I would have guessed a lot like older, just because I feel like he has a commanding power, and the people around his age like just don't on the show, at least. So I think he was great. Aubrey was great. I mean, we saw a huge like versatile range of characters from the show, and like I was yearning for like a Janet Snakehole version, and I think this checked all the marks. Not my favorite, didn't dislike it, but it was very popular online, so I was like very hyped to see it, and then I was like, okay, it was mid, but
okay. TJ, what did you think of it? Is the sophomore slump over for JAJ?
No.
Okay. Why?
Is that the most the no has been held out this entire season for him?
Yeah.
And by the way, Mike, my response to you was more towards the listeners, not to you specifically, because you gave me your context. See, out of the sophomore slump, like, I don't think he's in a sophomore slump. I think he's in his place. He's where a second-year cast member should be, balanced. Okay. Like, he's where I never thought JAJ was like the star. Like, I just thought like he was given a lot of screen time and he was a good, cast member. So for me, I'm like, oh, I really liked him here. Like when he pops up. whoever just referenced him in the Schumer sketch, like I thought that was like a really good touch. Or in the was it the Property Brothers sketch from last season where he plays like a cuck or something? Yeah, it was good. So he's a funny guy. He's incredibly funny, but like Sophomore's up for me because he's just kind of leveling out to where like I might more appreciate. It's crazy because I sound like I hate this guy, and like I didn't love him at first.
I'm just messing
like,
with you.
Yeah.
I know.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Like I could care less. But like, no, like that aside, this sketch. So this one was like Rebecca is kind of touching on it, like it being mid. Like aside from Janet Snakehole, who can do no wrong at all. Aside from that, it was like definitely like the weakest. It was I definitely got like the weakest laughs. And granted, I do also wonder this. This was the one sketch that like I couldn't see while I was like there. It was like there was like a wall that was like covering it up. It was like, so I'm wondering if that may be detractive to it, but like I know I wasn't as in it. Now, granted, people did love the Sharon Stone thing, but I didn't know I knew who Sharon Stone was by name, and I know she's in Basic Instinct. I didn't know what she looked like, just like I didn't know what Nicole Kidman looked like before she was in front of every Marvel movie. I've seen it at AMC theaters for the past 2 years. So like for myself, like that did kind of take away from me, but that doesn't mean that the sketch was worse. It just means that for myself, like this wasn't it for your boy.
Okay,
That's all.
That's interesting. This got less laughs than like the Avatar sketch.
Oh, this might be a background thing. I don't know if any of you guys like work in entertainment will know. They were wearing orange suits for that. Like, does anyone know why they would?
Well, they showed it on the like at the end of the sketch. Like they used it for the blue lighting to like the
So they wouldn't have to be in prosthetics for the entirety of Update and then to get out of it. I'm assuming they just lit them as blue, and I think just due to like color contrast, they kind of had to. Like wearing a green screen is the best way to get keyed out.
I think they did do some makeup for them, but not like as much as maybe they would have needed.
Yeah, they had like white spots on their face and stuff, but like I was like, wait, why are they wearing orange in this blue? It's like that part like threw me personally. The Avatar sketch, the only thing I liked in that a little bit more was just the line "Butch ladies from Arizona." For some reason, that cracked me up, and like it was very dumb. But like this one just had like less for myself. Although I will say it did make me want to think like, wow, I would have loved to have seen James Austin Johnson in an episode of Brockmire. Like that's, but that's not about this particular show, so it just didn't really like hit for me.
All right, let's get into the sketch that I want to talk about tonight. And it's not a sketch that I think I would usually pick, but I do definitely want to touch on it. And it is the Black Lotus pre-tape. And the reason I wouldn't normally talk about it is because my personal preference isn't always to choose the sketches that have almost the entirety of the cast in it. But in this case, it was kind of fun and I think a good thing for the start of the new year to, reset with the entire cast and see, how they were going to play in this sketch. And I believe everybody was in it except for Molly. They were the only one that wasn't in this sketch, but we had all of the other, and obviously Justin Che, but we had all the other cast members in this one. And, this was really fun. Again, no spoilers for the White Lotus through our talk of the Black Lotus. So you can definitely listen to our discussion of the particular sketch, but basically they flipped the premise on its head where, as we discussed on the Hot Take Show a little bit, in the White Lotus, the show is like everybody has so much ire and despair and just angst towards each other, but nobody ever talks about their feelings in full. But instead, this time we get, people talking openly because it's the Black Lotus and they're going to go there and we're going to get the people behind the desk talk about absolutely not, will not do this for you. Or like, you do realize that if you're going to do this, this is going to happen. And I just loved that particular aspect of playing with this type of stuff. They've done this, concept before where they've taken a show and turned it black. But I think that this was fun because it wasn't like, oh, let's take all the white characters and make them black characters and see how they interact with each other, which I think is a trope we've seen on SNL for many years. But this time, instead, they added what if these particular black characters existed in the White Lotus world, which I think was a really fun premise. So I did actually enjoy this a lot. I think my only question for this, and I'm gonna just ask Mike, because I know you're a big White Lotus guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to ask. I don't get what Aubrey Plaza was going for in this sketch. Everybody else, for me, was totally hit the mark. Yeah.
Well, because it's also a lot of the people that were being brought in were doing impressions of previous characters. So I think that certainly helped. And that was surprising. I mean, first off, I didn't recognize Aubrey Plaza at first. I was like, who is that? Who's doing this bartender right now? Before I realized, I'm very happy that either she or they made the choice to not have her just play her character all over again. Because I feel like that would have been a missed opportunity. We do see that sometimes, right? Of like, here's this person brought into this world. I'm thinking of Martin Freeman when he hosted and they did like a version of the Office set in Middle Earth, right?
Yeah.
He played Bilbo Baggins again. That's what I'm thinking of. So I'm glad that they decided, okay, let's not make her do this. I have no idea. Also, I would say, not to typify the race, it's the Black Lotus, right? It's this sort of what if question of what if there were Black people on the show, to be honest, that were like, oh, like, no, hell no, that's not going to happen. Why would you be, don't go in there. And then to have like this one Spanish character in Aubrey Plaza being there was a little odd, but by God, did she bring that energy. So I was like sort of happy about kind of how wild it was, because it was very high energy as opposed to what Keenan and Ego and Devin were doing about being like a bit more on the DL.
For sure. And my only theory on this, which is, I know like some other people were asking this, was Aubrey did Fallon last week and was talking about her auditions and the characters she used to do for SNL. And she talked how she really wanted to play a Puerto Rican news character. So I sort of like wondered if that was like a play on this in a little bit, but I don't know if that worked together. But I'd say, look, ultimately, besides that, I had a lot of fun with this sketch. And TJ, I would love to know from your perspective if you enjoyed the Black Lotus.
Well, John, first and foremost, I think every listener who's ever heard me on this podcast knows I'm not a fan of racial-based humor. I don't like jokes, made from the Black perspective. I don't see what the big deal is. It's not hilarious to me at all. It's not a joke. Nah, of course, you know who you're asking? Come on, of course I love this. This is my sketch of the night. It was great. I was laughing my black ass off when they said when like Heidi asked to be a singer in the Kirk Franklin Lounge.
Yes.
And for I want to assume people know who Kirk Franklin is. To me, Kirk Franklin is very Black famous. If you don't, Kirk Franklin is one of the biggest gospel singers of all time. He's so good that like even if you don't believe in God anymore, like you still enjoy his music. He had this great song called Stomp. He's a great performer. And so he's one of these performances known for bringing high energy. And so like the idea of Heidi trying to do lounge singing in like in a room with that type of energy killed me. Also, I'm somebody who's only seen season 1 of the Black Lotus. I did see the first episode of the new season. And actually I stopped watching because I was like, all right, so it's just about a bunch of white people who are privileged and they're sad. If I wanted to watch this, I would just watch Succession. And I already do. And I love that show. I don't need any more sad white people. You're still rich. Cheer up. I don't mean that because if you have depression, that's a whole different story. But I was like, this is just more the same thing for me. And like I already have my rich satire. This sketch made me think, all right, I'll push through those like last like 5 episodes. I don't know how long it is.
Yeah, there were a lot of episodes. They ended up being 7 in total, I think.
7,
oh,
yeah.
God. I'm just like I'm gonna at least give the second episode a try because like aside from Dismukes, I really appreciated Dismukes' impression of Jake Lacey's character. Season 1, oh, that guy's arc is a trip. But I just I mean, I don't know, like all the Black Lotus reactions are things that I was thinking as I was watching the show. I was like, man, this is a bunch of foolishness. Like I would not have patience for an iota of nonsense. Also, I also work at the hotel and not the ocean. But like, no, I love that response. That was like textbook picture perfect response of like, well, is the ocean a hotel?
So good.
I work at the hotel.
My last thought on this is this is a thing that I think other people might notice, but I just always give credit to. So like I used to be a big late night with Jimmy Fallon watcher before Fallon went on Tonight Show. I used to be a big fan when I was in college. And one of my favorite things about the show was Steve Higgins and his like anytime him and Fallon would just like do the stupidest things back and forth, like playing together. I love Steve Higgins. He is to me what Andy Richter is to some other people. And granted, I also love Andy Richter. But with Steve Higgins, he's not only done narration, he does voiceover a million times. But if anyone remembers, in the Black Jeopardy sketches, whenever in the middle of those sketches, they cut to break and Keenan says, hey, what are the prizes? Steve Higgins narrates those middle pieces. And every single time you have Steve Higgins, this very white voice, but very funny, the way he delivers lines about like Black culture, there's something about it that's just right. There's something about it that feels like culture respect, like the white dude that we let hang when we're at the cookout. Like it's something about it that just hits. And he brought it here for this sketch. Like just the way he said, and none of the foolishness. I loved because he captured the essence. It was Kentucky Fried Chicken perfection. Like I loved it. But so Steve Higgins, like he was the cherry on top of this wonderful sketch for me.
Awesome. Totally agree with that. Rebecca, what were your thoughts on Black Lotus?
I mean, huge White Lotus fan. We were expecting something related to this. Before I continue, Mike, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
And what did you think about Chloe in this sketch as Jennifer Coolidge?
I thought she was really good. I'm intrigued. Had they done any White Lotus stuff before this with Chloe as Jennifer Coolidge?
So they did her as Jennifer Coolidge, like, right before this. So
Was it like her doing an Old Navy commercial or something?
No, it was her.
The Old Navy's commercial.
Yeah, it was her Christmas. It was her talking about like Christmas stuff. So basically, she was like
it was her being like amazed at Christmas stuff.
Yeah, like what's the deal with Jingle Bells? Like she blew out a menorah and wished happy birthday. Like it was just like a lot of stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes. So the reason I asked this is because, and I say this about Chloe, she has just such an arsenal of characters, but once they like someone that she does, like I don't even think this is like a her problem. They harp on that impression so much and so close in a row. Like if we had to see like another Nicole Kidman, like there are just so many in a row that keep happening. And if she didn't do the Christmas impression, so I was asking you because I'm like, oh, maybe you thought it was like so good because if I
really enjoyed it. I know I definitely would have much less as someone who had unfortunate resentment towards people like Kristen Wiig and Kate McKinnon towards the end of their tenure because it's like you just keep doing the same things over and over and over again. I certainly would have had it wound down by repetition, but for me, it was the first time that I had seen it. I'm like, oh, she's really good.
Yeah, she's amazing at it too. I just am like, and again, this isn't her fault. Like, you're going to have a White Lotus sketch. You're going to have Jennifer Coolidge. So that was the one thing that was like irking me that I wish I hadn't seen. I thought them doing poor impressions of the cast. Actually, Dismukes was, I think, doing Theo James. He was the Lacey of this season. Just to clarify that because it's
but he mentioned something about like I got the suite. So I thought
Dismukes was doing Shane, the character.
Because he's wearing like a polo and everything.
Yeah, and then Longfellow.
It's also Theo James though.
No.
Really?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they had a Theo.
No, because he has the polo. He has the way he's harassing the manager. Like that's
no one on SNL is hot enough to be Theo James.
That's fair. That's fair. But okay, so back to this though. I thought it was funny. Yes, like it was great. It was very expected. It was like when is this gonna happen? I kind of wish Aubrey Plaza's character was a little more placed. I didn't want her to play herself, but like imagine she played Jennifer Coolidge, or she did an impression of someone on the cast and like had her in a different role. I thought that would have been a little more successful for me with her being the host and then making the sketch around the host. Like that scenario, they could have done a White Lotus sketch for the past like 3-4 episodes, and they're doing it now because of course she's hosting. But her part was funny, but it didn't hit though. It wasn't as satisfying as I wanted it to be. And like if she did Jennifer Coolidge, if she did like Valentina at the desk, like there were I think missed opportunities that like I thought she could have been funnier in this. And like we're watching this sketch about White Lotus, her TV show, and watching her with such a close eye that like I didn't think they utilized her enough. And I thought it was very for not like the hotel staff. I think it was very Chloe focused. In terms of like the character acting here. And I thought there could have been a little more, but like we expected it. I'm happy they did it. And like, I like the take they had on it being the Black Lotus, but yeah, that Ego line's my favorite though too. Being like, I don't work at the ocean.
Rebecca, I wonder if they were to have given like Audrey the Jennifer Coolidge thing in the alternate universe of the alternate universe SNL network episode, we would be sitting here saying, why on earth didn't Chloe play like, I don't think there was like a win. Like either way, we would have literally probably said, I don't get why they didn't just have Chloe play this. Can I also just like say, I agree with what you're saying about the Coolidge thing, because like this for me is the last time, because I also follow Chloe on Instagram. This is the last time I need to see Chloe, and it's not bad because it's really good. This is the last one I need to see of like her Coolidge, unless Jennifer Coolidge is on the show, cameo or hosting. I think we can all agree we don't need another Jennifer Coolidge impression. Like it's like the Dionne Warwick show. Like Ego did it like the twice, and then Dionne Warwick's on the show. If she did it a fourth time.
No, go out on top. Go out with
exactly. Go out on top. Like this is the last
you're
one.
Right.
Yeah.
It just everyone could do a Jennifer Coolidge, so it's not as
let me just say.
Oh, what do you mean? Like,
let me just say also that they're not. These decisions are not for us. Like, I love our panelists and all of our listeners, but it's really meant for people who are like, oh, I just watched The White Lotus. Like, Aubrey Plaza's hosting SNL. Like, let me check that out. And then they have this like killer Jennifer Coolidge impression. They're gonna put it on the show. Like, I would feel like wrong to do that because like for somebody like Mike who hasn't seen the Jennifer Coolidge impression before, maybe tuning in and out every now and then, this is like a big deal. So
that's why I asked. That's why I was like, did you like that? Because I didn't.
Yeah, and I actually liked a couple of impressions as well when they were attempted. Again, maybe it's my JAJ bias. I thought he did a really good Dominic DeGrasso. I know he only had a few lines, but I think he was very good at Michael Imperioli's just like exasperated tone to him. And this was one of those things where like it wasn't an impression, it was more of a look as an impression. But Sarah Sherman was like a great passer for Haley Lou Richardson as Portia, in my opinion.
Really good.
Yeah, that was incredible. So really enjoyed that sketch overall.
Welcome to Black Lotus, bitch.
Love that. Okay, let's rapid fire anything else from the episode that we want to make sure that we talk about. So Mike, I'll keep it up with you and go to you on, is there any other moments from the night that you want to make sure we talk about?
Yeah, I think it makes sense if we're going rapid fire to talk about the rapid fire game of Taboo that was being played. This took me by surprise for many reasons. One of them being it was short. I was stunned. I thought rule of threes, we get a third game. I was very surprised that they just swapped and that was it. I appreciate that. If you can't end the sketch, just cut it off. Don't feel like you have to write some sort of random ending in there. But this was, I think, Aubrey Plaza at her Aubrey Plaza-iest in the best way possible, right? In that she was creepy, she was kooky, she was mysterious and spooky. I'm actually surprised we didn't get like a Wednesday sketch going on with Aubrey Plaza, who's kind of like a grown-up Wednesday Addams. But I think her and listen, Mikey was not the straight man here. He was kind of, I guess he was in that relationship, but he was going along with it. The game of the scene was that it was so unnatural to everyone else, but it was natural to her. And so I really enjoyed just how, again, rapid fire back and forth this was, which led to rapid fire jokes, right? Just out of the gate, talking about, carrying the gun, your nickname for my penis, garbage. I think by far the best part, it kind of peaked with her doing the impression of what turned out to be their daughter. Like that was the peak of it for me, but it didn't really plateau there afterwards. Between just all the random answers that typifies this horrible couple's life, to then Aubrey Plaza getting simultaneously horny while Mikey Day was giving his answers. And she says, just do me on this ugly couch.
Very horny, by the way, Mike. Like hornier than we've seen most people on the cast. Let me just play that for people if they don't remember.
Oh, God. Oh, just do me on this ugly couch right now.
Again, that to me is maybe the most Aubrey Plaza line of the night. It's just like her yelling some odd thing. But I thought her and Mikey worked surprisingly well together. Like I was happy he was able to get weird. I don't know if we needed 4 people reacting. Maybe just settle for Keenan and one other person. But still, I really enjoyed this. The quick dialogue, the quick pace, and just the absolute absurdity of it.
Yeah, it was very good. Let me just say, Mike didn't mention this line, but I did pull this one because I thought this was my favorite part of that sketch.
I am not legally allowed back in this state.
Oh my God, babe. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida. Help me out here, babe.
I just thought that went on for so long. That was like longer than any SNL line you would typically see in a sketch. So for me, that was so great. TJ, did it play well in the house?
Oh my God, yeah. Actually, and this was my it was what I really enjoyed about this episode was like I brought my partner with me and they had only seen like SNL clips that their roommate had sent them. I don't ever know if they'd ever seen a full episode like together, like even like on Hulu or something. So like I was watching it like also like through their eyes, and like this was for sure like her favorite one of the night. Like just like nice like bite sizing, like she like gravitated towards this one. I think somebody said this on a Hot Take Show. You didn't even really need the a ton of other cast members for this one.
Yeah.
Like this was solid.
Yeah, Rebecca, what about you? Quickly, how do you feel about this one?
Oh, I was like audibly laughing. I agree with Mike. It's very Aubrey. It's what we kind of expected to see from her, and I was just very excited that we got that. And I thought it was hysterical. Like so dumb, but like really good. Also, TJ, you should probably play Taboo with your partner.
Yeah. Think about it.
I think she's in the chat, so could you not like give her ideas?
Rebecca, what about you? Anything else from the episode you want to make sure that we talk about?
Yes, I have two things, but I'd love to talk about the cameo, the April and the Leslie Knope cameo and update. First of all, the update in general I thought was very strong. Like as a whole, I feel like it's usually.
I was going to ask, is this characteristic of this season? Because I know, again, people have looked at update as like the strongest part of every episode. Shay and Jost are certainly getting up there. I think they're the longest tenure update anchors yet. Like, has it been strong this season?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing bad, but I thought this one stood out as particularly strong. Like the whole update, like so maybe it hasn't been as strong as like. It was never noticeable until now where I was like, wait, this was like stood out in my mind of like at least this season's like best update all around, all the way through. I thought all their jokes hit, but I mean, we obviously knew that that Amy was there, and it was like she's not just coming in on this monologue, like where is she gonna pop in? And also like I personally knew it was more of a sketch because Demois posted the day before being like, oh, if people are Parks and Rec fans, you might really want to watch tonight's episode, and then like had a picture of Amy Poehler on it. So I was like, okay, after that first part, I was like, this is not, Demois wouldn't know that she'd just be standing in the studio. Like there must be something more here. And when it came, I was so satisfied that it wasn't like a Selena Gomez cameo where she just like kind of popped in. It was purposeful. I thought she was the best part of the whole update cameo, and like the jokes about herself were funny, being like, I've seen this when Seth hosted completely on his own.
Yes.
And then like took over. I was like, I want to try this. This looks fun. And I don't know. It was so nice to see as like such a Parks and Rec fan. And Aubrey is April. Their characters are just so overlapped. And she's like, oh, this man's been annoying me for 30 minutes. Like I thought it was really funny, and like very happy that was the cameo.
It was fantastic. TJ, did you enjoy what you saw on update from Amy and Aubrey together?
This was the one where like I went into a fugue state. Like when I saw like, you know, some like celebrities backstage, I was like, oh, that's like really cool, but like, is that who it is? No. And when April came out and they're like doing the whole thing where they're like, you know, bringing on the person, all I saw was like a woman in like a gray hoodie. Of course, it's been long enough that like Aubrey Plaza has done enough stuff that like you don't expect April Ludgate, because it's a loved character, but it's not like her only thing. It's not a necessity. Like it'd have been perfectly fine if there wasn't a like Parks and Rec character on the show. Like it would have been okay. But like when she came on, you couldn't actually see her face. Like they were like she also had the April wig because Aubrey doesn't have the hair she did back in the day. So like it was the wig, but like she's intentionally hiding her face and but you could only see like a corner, and somebody on the other side probably could have seen more, but like you couldn't see her. And I'm like, who is this character? I thought it was Sarah or Chloe, which was a reasonable assumption. So when it came out, it was like going into the Avatar state. Like I blacked out for like a good 20 seconds and like was like bouncing in my seat, like so excited, like exploding all over the place. Pause. Just like I was just like very ecstatic. And so then I'm watching the corner to see like I wonder if there's anyone else. I don't know how they did it because I kept like looking over, but then I was like, you know, there's a lot of places for your eyes to go. I don't know how they snuck in Amy, but they hid Amy way better than they hid like Aubrey. It was really difficult to tell she was there. So when she just showed up, it was like I was on a rocket to the moon. Like, oh my God. I thought I blacked out for 20 seconds. I thought I knew what happiness was. I've had a good year. I've had a pretty good life. Life has been pretty good the past couple of years for me, you know? I thought I knew what happiness and ecstasy was. This was better than an orgasm. Like, it was, I did not, it was, no, John, let me have this. I just did not.
Seems like I'll have what you're having.
Exactly. It was just so involuntary, the level of excitement I had, because Leslie Knope, my partner's literally texting me right now from that line. But like, sorry, I just on my profile, I see my phone.
TJ's tabooing right now in this.
Exactly.
No, what I'm trying to say is,
and when I saw them, I orgasmed.
No, but like Leslie Knope just is, you know, this is my second favorite show of all time, but she's one of my favorite characters and inspiration. I think her and Ben are the second best TV couple of all time, behind Michael and Holly. Jim and Pam can suck it. They're not even third. April and Andy. But just like Leslie Knope is just like wonderful representation. So, and here's also the surprise: when you see Amy in the building, I didn't immediately think about Leslie Knope either, because they've gone on and done other things. So it was that warm bit of surprise. It wasn't like when we had Bobby and Drunk Uncle. That one made more sense to me, but Leslie and Amy, I didn't think about it. And so like the extra surprise on top of like the wonderful like punch and just being delightful, I did not know I could feel that happy and excited in that moment, and it felt awesome. And to be there, to be in the studio, everyone, like it, one of the highest like moments of my life.
Awesome. Yeah, TJ's like
Dead.
when he said that. Mike, were you as high as TJ was on this?
Oh yeah, my penis just exploded from the inside out.
This is the most parental advisory episode of this podcast.
Wheeling himself out. I picked the right ones to come on to. Oh God, that came out so wrong. No, I mean, listen, it's a tough act to follow up here in the center square. But at first, I thought because I had gotten this spoiled to me, I didn't watch it night of, and I was like, this was the one thing that I think had obviously circulated for obvious reasons. So going into it, I was expecting it to be more fun than funny, as one of my old SNL compatriots and current, SNN head Rich Tackenberg likes to say, where it's like, okay, this is fun to have these characters in a live setting, but are they going to say anything funny? But when April rolls out there and starts talking through, her pitch as to why people should work in local government and why, if you you can drain the reservoir and you can find all the bodies and murder clues, like there was some fun writing in there, and I liked the fact that there was still strong characterization behind it. But of course, the energy ramped itself up when Leslie Knope rolls out, and I love that not only does Amy Poehler get to do update, but she does it as Leslie Knope. So again, it's a fun like improv-esque game thing to me of like, okay, how would this character handle this particular thing, that she then scrolls through several different stories, because again, Leslie Knope, almost always uber positive, would say, oh, that's too mean. No, I'm not doing that. And then settle upon it. Now, big braining here. Which do you think came first? The Amy Poehler cameo idea or the Joe Biden sends in a taped message idea? Because I feel like those two are so linked to each other, right? Considering Joe Biden's role on Parks and Rec.
It had to be Amy.
Yeah, I think the Amy Poehler thing comes first, and then it's like, can we get Biden to do this? Like, let's see if the tape comes in like an hour before the show, at least. So, I think the
wait, that was crazy. I don't know how we haven't touched on that.
Yeah, the first time.
We're an hour 40 minutes in talking about exploding penises, but we didn't think to mention Biden's cameo, which is major. That was here. Like, Aubrey probably felt like she was as high as TJ was when they came out on update, because that's so crazy.
No, to be as high as TJ was, you have to be like
just do me on this ugly couch right now, baby.
Facts.
Yeah. Imagine the president of the United States.
Yeah,
is
Mike,
okay, I'm gonna take my time and do this.
For sure. Mike, you were gonna say?
No, I mean that it was because I think, is this the first time that like a president has appeared on the show while they were still in office? Because I'm trying to think like
since Ford.
Okay, since when he did his thing with Chevy, because I was gonna say I know like George H.W. Bush sent in a message after he had lost. Obama appeared before he came out, speaking of another Amy Poehler moment, which was happening there. So yeah, it's a rarity. And granted, like it's in quotations because he didn't actually appear at 8H. He just kind of sent in a message, but still, wild. I mean, that was another thing. I wasn't sure if they had just made up the most famous Delaware person, but I guess if the president is verifying it, I suppose it was an authentic survey.
She's talked about this before, like on interviews, that she is actually voted the most famous person in Delaware, which is like, that wasn't a bit. That was like pure fact.
Yeah, and let me just say, for anybody who continues to question this was legit. Like, this was not deep fake Biden who was coming in to do this.
It was an AI.
I had the CGI thing in my head where I was like, "Is this CGI?"
Yeah, they got the football robot right from the cold open to just be Biden.
Yeah, he was like,
I don't think
just wait until the uprising.
Yeah, I didn't think it was.
That was going to poll.
I thought, honestly, and I tweeted this out because I wanted to be right when it happened. I thought they were going to have a "Please Don't Destroy" writer's room sketch where they wrote a whole sketch using ChatGPT.
Oh,
yeah.
And then once I saw that in the first, I was like, "Oh, this is them talking about ChatGPT."
That could be coming eventually.
But yeah, before Bowen showed up on the cold open, I thought that the football robot was going to be the game of the sketch. I thought that's what the sketch was going to be about like the robot becoming increasingly unhinged.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can see that. Yeah.
Somebody.
TJ, let me just go to you because I just want to make sure we get in any final thoughts from you on things you saw from the episode that you just want to make sure that we talk about. So besides any other experiences of you and your partner at the show, is there anything that you saw from sketch-wise?
That somehow sounds both better and worse than the way he vocalized it beforehand.
No, she handled things way better than I was. She was very polite. Like, I was totally
any other sketch moments or anything from the episode you want to make sure we talk about quickly?
Well, to be honest, we did touch on the three things I had wanted to. I guess I'll just give a chance for anyone else to do if they wanted to talk about the France model sketch. They want to. It was very funny. Simple as that.
I really liked it. Reminded me a lot of like the Bachelor sketches that I don't know if they still do, but they used to do of like, let's just throw all the women on stage and have them say wacky things. I think my favorite by far was Miss Denmark, of the 1-2 punch of "Where will you be in 5 years? Albania, Canada, dead." Skydiving accident, then followed with "What's your talent?" Skydiving. It was, I think that was a perfect setup and punchline.
It was a very meet your second wife joke.
Exactly.
It's actually funny, Mike, you brought that up, because I think this became very viral on the internet because a lot of old Bachelor contestants were pageants, and there are compilations that have been going around for like a year or so of all the Bachelor contestants saying where they're from, and it's like these people we've seen on TV like get champagne spilled all over them, being like New York, and like it's so that's really funny that's where your mind went, because that could have been intentional for sure.
Yeah, my favorite part of that sketch was how crazy was that?
Oh,
wild. Why were they there? Why?
They didn't hide that one at all. Like, they had them lit like a few minutes before they went on, unlike Amy and other people. Like, and I was like, why are the Property Brothers? Well, I think everyone was wondering what. I mean, it was funny because it's just, let's pick the most random celebrities, but like, I don't know. Also, here's a question: would the Property Brothers be a likely likely duo hosting? Not saying I would want it. But like, there's a lot of jokes. I don't want it.
Their
But like,
personalities seem the consistency of the drywall that they like to put up in people's houses.
Yeah, no, they're very milquetoast. Like, they're, but like, there is
an interesting thought.
A bad Taylor Swift song.
I do think in one of our Monday polls, we once asked for more duos, and they were sent in a few times as potential candidates for that. But speaking of the polls, let's transition over to our polls from this week that we didn't get to talk about yet. So we did ask, we covered this earlier in the show. We said who should have played George Santos. So the options were Bowen, Marcello, or Lovitz, or other. 54% said Bowen Yang. So I think that was the number one choice. I think the majority of people agreed with the Bowen choice. I would expect Lovitz would be next, but people said Marcello, 23%. So it seems like they were very happy, as Mike said, to put this with a cast member. Okay, next up, we have favorite cameo of the night. So ton of cameos in this episode. So we had some crew members in there. We had former cast members from Amy Poehler.
Kira showed up for a hot second.
Right, which is a very big deal. It goes back all the way to the beginnings of the show to have Akira Yoshimura there, and some other great members of the set design crew. So obviously, former hosts in Sharon Stone, former cast member Amy Poehler. We had Aubrey's grandmother. We had President Biden, the Property Brothers, Tony Hawk, Allison Williams. We had Kim Petras as well. So
TJ Randolph, I was on screen too.
TJ and his partner were there.
Laugh.
Yeah. So we did ask who was your favorite cameo from the night. night. So I'm going to go around. I'm going to ask the panel, give me one choice of who you think the audience said was their favorite cameo of the night.
It's Amy Poehler. It's by far Amy Poehler.
Who,
Does anyone?
Who would choose otherwise?
All right. Well, I just don't know.
Amy Poehler.
Yeah, it is.
Who you
It
should
is
ask
Amy
the
Poehler.
second is like, come on.
All right. So, well, the second was Tony Hawk, as we said.
Yeah.
So, Amy
Okay.
Poehler, 62%.
That was
makes
my
sense.
second too.
I
Shout out
love
Tony Hawk Pro
too.
Skater making the
Tony
2000s.
Hawk is, I love whenever he appears. Like I remember him appearing on Comedy Bang Bang, the TV show. Like he is so game to play a version of himself. So I'm glad it was super random. And I don't know if this was a take on like how random pageant judges are or not, but I'll take any Tony Hawk when I can get it because he is so much fun whenever he's playing himself nowadays and he's not skating around.
Yeah.
Very random. But 62% for Amy Poehler, 21% for Tony Hawk, 12% for Sharon Stone. President Biden comes in fourth, 3%. And then Akira Yoshimura, very classic. SNL fans, 2% of you said that was your favorite cameo of the night. All right. Every single week, we do MVP polls where we ask who is your MVP from this particular week. It could be the host, it could be the musical guest, it could be a cameo or a cast member. And I'm going to go around and I'm going to ask you for who you think the top 3 vote getters were from this week. TJ, I'll start with you.
On MVP?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Aubrey, Amy, and I want to say either I'm gonna say maybe Molly, but I'm forgetting someone. Yeah.
Okay. Aubrey, Amy, and Molly. Rebecca, who are your choices?
Aubrey, Amy, and then Devin.
Mike, what about you?
I would say I'll go Aubrey and Amy. I'll go a little off the wall here. I'll give one for Sam Smith because I think Sam Smith, their musical performances drew a lot of eyes and ears. I think I'm in the minority in that like I adored the shit out of that second musical performance. It seems like not a lot of people did, but again, it was different for me. So I don't know, maybe the virality of it might have Sam Smith finishing in third. But again, given how people did not like the Gregorian chants of it all, I have a feeling they're not in there.
Yeah, also though, while we're on Sam Smith, the Kim Petras reveal was crazy.
So wild.
Was literally crazy. Like the fact that she was in their dress the whole time, like for the first half. And I actually knew that was happening because I watched it later. And the whole time I'm looking and I'm like, where is she? Like unless they were on a platform of some sort, I couldn't figure it out. And then I was like, wait, that was good. And I've seen Kim live a few times actually, and like she is kind of a wild card, and I feel like she behaved herself, but there was a big chance she wasn't going to. So I thought that was good, and I thought Sam was awesome, and like their vocals are so good.
Yeah, shout out to Kim Petras. I believe Kim Petras might be, from what I saw, the first trans woman to perform on SNL, which is freaking awesome.
Wow, that's amazing.
There was a tiny platform. It was like there was when you got in, there was like it looked like a mattress, maybe like a king size, and then like a big seat. So like Kim was seated on something, and they elevated Smith for it.
Okay, let's reveal the results from this week's poll. And in first place, of course, we have Aubrey Plaza, 47% of the vote. But none of you said Bowen Yang, who actually came in second place, 15% of the vote. I guess all the George, what was it, Mike? You messed me up with the last name.
Now, like I was kind of in my home where I said, that's why I
yeah.
said Bowen when I was talking about, I'm like, don't say Soros, don't say Soros.
Yeah,
and I was
the George
about
Santos
to,
stuff.
and so I just walked it back.
Yeah. All the George Santos stuff seemed to hit for some people. So 15% of the vote. Amy does come in third place, 9% of the vote. Molly Carney, they come in fourth place. I think it's their first appearance on the MVP award vote this season. And then Devin Walker. So 2 rookies, fourth and fifth on this vote. But Aubrey Plaza runs away with the MVP for week number 10. All right, so that will do it for our talk of the Aubrey Plaza episode on the Roundtable, at least. Of course, we're going to have By the Numbers and the Patron Feedback Show later on this week. But let's start by talking about our expectations for next week with host Michael B. Jordan and musical guest Lil Baby. So when I got the email from NBC for Michael B. Jordan, I'll read it out. Michael B. Jordan will make his SNL hosting debut on January 28th. Jordan directs and stars in Creed 3 in theaters March 3rd. And Lil Baby will make his first appearance as musical guest. So for those who don't know, Michael B. Jordan obviously started out in many different TV shows, was on The Wire, All My Children, so was a soap actor as well, known for Friday Night Lights, and then of course Black Panther a few years ago, and now these Creed movies. So very exciting to get Michael B. Jordan in the house. TJ, what are your thoughts and expectations for MBJ?
Oh, I think we're going to see another fantastic show. I'm picturing it like a. No, I just think we're gonna. He's a dramatic actor. He's somebody that like really has great chops. The first place I ever saw him was on this NBC show called Parenthood. He played like this character. He's dating a daughter. He's a wonderful actor. Also, this has nothing to do with value, but he's a gorgeous man. So always I like.
So
who doesn't like
hot.
tuning in? Okay, let's not objectify him, Rebecca. But who doesn't like tuning in for pretty
You
people?
took it out of my mouth. I was about to say. I know.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really fun to watch.
He is. And also, shout out to Lil Baby. I know he's dropped some. I haven't heard a ton of his stuff, but I do know like who he is, and like so for him to be getting an opportunity in a platform like this is really cool. Hopefully, it doesn't go the way of Roddy Ricch.
Yeah, hope not.
Right?
Rebecca, what about you? So obviously, Michael B. Jordan hot, but anything else you're excited for?
I know he's done comedy stuff before, but like not in recent years. And
he was in Space Jam 2.
And he was in something called That Awkward Moment with Zac Efron. Is that the
No. Recent. I'm saying the Zac Efron movie.
Space Jam 2 was like a year ago.
I'm so sorry. One, I didn't even know Space Jam 2 was considered a comedy.
It's a joke. He was in it for literally. Ready? I'm about to spoil the.
No, that was a read. That was a read for sure.
The best joke of Space Jam 2 is that they say they're going to get Michael Jordan and they accidentally kidnap Michael B. Jordan and he shows up for one hot second. That's his only cameo in it, and by far the best thing about the movie.
That's really funny, and that easily actually could have been on SNL on this episode coming up.
For sure. And also speaking
I think
of,
it'll be good to see him this way.
Yeah, I think it's the first time we've ever had two people with the same name host SNL. So we actually had Michael Jordan previously host Saturday Night Live before, and now we get Michael B. Jordan. So that will be fun. But
so we'll have Stuart Smalley come out, and he'll do the same sketch that Michael Jordan did back in the 90s, probably amongst all these dates you were talking about beforehand.
Yeah, I think Frank can have some free time now, so maybe we'll get him next week. But over to another Michael. Mike, what do you think about Michael B. Jordan coming in?
Yeah, I am excited. He definitely seems like, to TJ's point, one of these guys that, I think he's an incredibly underrated actor, in my opinion. I first caught wind of him. I watched The Wire a little bit later than everyone. I first watched him in Fruit Valley Station, which is from like 2014, Ryan Coogler's director debut.
Yep.
Really, really well done movie. I think actually a bit prescient as to certain issues that are very much in the zeitgeist nowadays. But he has been so incredible from such a young age. # Where's Wallace? And so I think it's going to be a very writing dependent episode, I would imagine, where I don't necessarily see him be an Aubrey Plaza role where just her zaniness will elevate perhaps even the most mediocre writing. I think if they serve him good material, he's going to do really, really good at it. If it's not, maybe not, but I'm really excited for him just because I'm grateful to see him get more opportunities.
I think it'll be in the vein of Daniel Kaluuya or like Adam Driver. I think he's going to come in. We know he's a good actor, but then I really think this is going to be a strong one. I think we're like, people are underestimated a little bit.
Like his late Black Panther co-star Chadwick Boseman had a very similar reaction when he came in.
Yeah. Oh man,
that's great.
Man, that makes me emotional every time I think about Chadwick.
Yeah, that's a great point. So yeah, I'm very pumped to see what we're gonna get from Michael B. Jordan. Always love it when we get some different people who've never hosted the show before come in. And January, as we learned this week, we posted on social media, is the month with the most first-time hosts in the history of SNL. So it's fun to get some fresh blood in there on to Saturday Night Live. So excited to talk about that, and we'll talk about that a lot more this week when we have first our By the Number show on Wednesday night, where Nicole and Mike Murray will be back to break down all the statistics from this week of the show. They will reveal the screen time from this week, and they will be joined by not the Sam Smith, but a Sam Smith will join them on the show. So just watch out for that. We're talking about same names. We're going to get a Sam Smith with them on Wednesday night. On Thursday, I will be live with Thomas Senna at 8 p.m. to talk through all of your feedback questions. So make sure to send those in. We will put up the form on Wednesday for the questions about this past week, and look forward to the Michael B. Jordan episode. So that will be our patron feedback show this week. And then we'll be live for the Hot Take show on Saturday night at 1:10 a.m. right after the Michael B. Jordan episode and Little Baby. So TJ, thanks for joining us tonight. Always great to get to hear your adventures, and happy that you got to go to the show. Please tell the listeners where they could check out everything you got going on.
Oh, thanks for having me, John. It was really fun. I was really glad I got to talk about this and that I got to have this experience. I feel like being able to do this show, and also even before doing it, listening to the podcast ahead of time, like honestly really like compounded my excitement and kind of like my excitement for this. So to be honest, the SNL Network feels kind of in the DNA of this journey to me, getting to have a dream of 14 years come true to be able to see the show live. So like all jokes aside, I was very grateful for the experience. I was very happy, and so it's cool to be talking about it here with some wonderful people tonight. I have a 15-ish minute podcast with, contrary to our listener beliefs, we are able to occasionally, maybe like 5 out of the 70 episodes, we've been able to crank out in 15 minutes. But it's called Rabbit Trail. That's RABID. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. John has been on it. Nicole has been on it. Sean Grant has been on it. We've had wonderful people on it. And also a person that is sitting, down by besides me, Rebecca North has been on it. And honestly, the timing of this is insane. Rebecca was just on our most recent episode we dropped last week, where we talk about shower stuff. Do you like a shower beer? Have you ever, had a little thing of cookies
You want to
next
listen
to a
to
dresser?
TJ and myself talk about shower stuff? Tune into Rabbit Trail.
Good Lord.
Yeah, whatever that means for you.
Oh, just do me on the ugly couch right now.
No, but it's a really fun episode, and I will absolutely, I already told Rebecca, we'll absolutely love to have her on again. This is wonderful. And this week, we did a topic I'm very passionate about. I'm not, but we had a lot of fun with it. We talked about Taylor Swift, and trust me, it was not a Taylor Swift bash. I tried to get John, Nicole, or Mike Murray on. We just couldn't make it happen because of scheduling, and it's A-okay. Everything is all good. And next week, we're going to be much more simplistic. We're talking about the best breakfast. Okay, this is essential. How are you starting your day? If you want to, learn more about the podcast, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at We Are Rabbit Trail. Again, that's RABID. And you can find me, TJ, at King Compliment on Instagram and TikTok. Thanks, Sean.
Always a pleasure getting to talk to you, TJ. It was just wonderful. Rebecca, it's so much fun to get to talk to you as well. Where can listeners check out everything you got going on?
Just follow me on all socials at Barbecue. If you want to listen to me, I was on Rabbit Trail this week, but more recently on the Saturday Night Network, I was on the Ideal Best Episode Draft, and that was so fun. Definitely a highlight of being on the Saturday Night Network. So to get a chance to listen to that, I mean, I'm killing our first draft right now, which was the cast members draft. So I think that episode, I really suggest to everyone, loved it. A lot of fun being there. So that's where you can listen to me or follow me on any social media.
Absolutely.
At where?
At Barbecue.
Yeah, because you're not only on video, people are listening to you.
Yeah.
Oh, I said for Barbecue the first time, and I think if people
listening.
were going to follow me, they probably already have.
All right, let's get to Mike, because I know Mike has so much going on. So, Mike, it was an absolute delight to get you on the show tonight. Where can the listeners check out everything you're doing?
No, I really enjoy this because, as I'm about to get into voluminously, I do a lot of recurring coverage of things on a weekly basis. So I always relish the opportunities to come on and do one-offs, talk about things that I normally do not talk about, especially something like SNL, which I still do have a lot of passion for, that, as you've just listened to over the past 2 hours, has memories in my gray matter that I cannot remove no matter what. I will go to my grave remembering every lyric to Lazy Sunday. So help me. And I might not remember calculus, but I remember that one. So this was a true pleasure. It was so great to meet all of you. John, what you and all have done with this network. I know that I had the pleasure of getting to meet you in person this past year at an event, and to see what you've done is nothing short of remarkable. I know firsthand how tough it is to get a podcast network going, to get so many voices involved, so talented as the people I'm talking to now, as well as the ones that are appearing on all your other podcasts. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
That being said, I do a lot of stuff from a podcast perspective. I do at this moment I do scripted and reality TV recaps. From scripted television on post-show recaps, which you can access at postshowrecaps.com. I am covering The Last of Us, one of the red hot shows at the moment. It's a great game. It's been a great show so far as well. I am one of the first of us talking The Last with Us with one of my great friends, Grace Leader. We're talking every Sunday night as soon as the episode drops. Been really successful so far. We were in the top 25 for TV and film last week. We were number 3 on After Show on Apple Podcasts. So I'm incredibly grateful to everyone out there who has opened their ears and allowed us to crawl into them, much like a nice fungal root. I am also covering The Legend of Vox Machina, which is which is a Critical Role animated adaptation of their hit Dungeons and Dragons actual play podcast. Just started season 2 this past week. I podcast with an out-and-out DM. He does it professionally. He loves Critical Role. We get to gab about D&D. What's different? What's the same? That's a really fun time. And then coming up in this next month, I'm going to start getting into the space shows. Star Trek Picard's returning for its final season. We have the Mandalorians coming up in March as well. So all that is happening. I also do a podcast called Lost Down the Hatch that previously recapped every episode of Lost. Now we're on to Heroes Season 1, speaking of NBC. So lots of stuff happening there. But then we come to reality TV, which I do a lot of whenever it is in season. First off, I am a podcaster of reality TV right now, covering Tough as Nails on CBS, the one CBS reality shows that showcases, for once in a while, like no influencers, just hardworking random Americans that you might find fixing your telephone pole outside are in the hunt for $200,000. When Survivor ends up coming back in March 1st, I have done interviews with all the contestants before they went out and played in Fiji, and those will be up as well in my writing and podcast form. I'm a writer at parade.com, and I get the opportunity to interview so many different celebrities, so many different reality TV contestants. I think I have an article coming out in a couple of weeks with Mark Summers of Double Dare. Back in the day, he has a new podcast coming out, so I get to talk with Mark freaking Summers. I have an absolutely wild job. You can catch up on all the things I'm doing there, and I'm sure many more of these guesty spots all over the internet at a Mike Bloom type on all social media platforms.
That was a beautiful plug.
Thank you.
No,
I've gotten used to it because every time I've come onto this, I've had to go through the entire list. So it's just become like a rote speech, like I'm the robot being fed just information to say.
Yeah. Well, Mike, it was an absolute honor to have you on the show tonight, and I hope you'll come back again. So looking forward to that. And let me just make one more plug, if you don't mind, listeners, which is I'd like to plug our SNL stories from last week, which is a great conversation with Neil Levy, who happens to be the cousin of Lorne Michaels. And back in the day in 1975, Lorne brought his cousin along to sort of help and be an assistant, and then eventually an extra on the show. He becomes a writer and then a talent coordinator. He's actually the one who really pushed hiring Eddie Murphy on the show, so he talks about that a lot. It was and this is relationship with Gene Dumanian and Dick Ebersol. It was a fascinating conversation with Neil Levy, which you can check out in your podcast feeds right now. So I wanted to plug that for you. To see everything that we have going on, you can subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and also find us on social media at the SNL Network on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. All right, for TJ Randolph, Rebecca North, and the great Mike Bloom, my name is Jon Schneider from the Saturday Night Network. We will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.